Nice.
All right. This is Crash Canon. I'm Chris. I've got a guest today. What would you? Who are you, and what do you do?
My name is Mike, Michael Caprice. I have a YouTube channel called Become the Night, and I also do YouTube consulting. And yeah, I'm a musician, producer, songwriter, mixing engineer, critic, music philosopher. I have way too many hats, and I feel like I'm actually pretty good at most of them, but not the best at any of them. That
Yeah,
makes
from
sense.
our brief talks behind the scenes, you definitely have expertise in the music industry. We haven't talked a lot about everything else, but for sure, I've heard some good expertise from you on music and thumbnails and that kind of stuff. So I
Thank
definitely
you.
know some of those things, not all of the things. That's why we're here to talk, because I want to know more about you and find out as we discuss this. I'm a little thrown off because my Twitter totally failed when I was trying to hit go live, so they probably missed the intro, but at least they get this part. So
Haley's in the
anyway,
chat.
yeah, we got Haley. She's the mod for the channel. I think there's a
I
couple
feel
other
like she's a
mods,
mod
but
on every channel. Let's be honest.
I
I'll have to.
basically made everybody that showed up to the first stream a mod.
That's cool. Why
I
not?
just thought it would be fun to do that, so I did. I think like a couple other people that were haven't come back since, so that I don't know what that says, but they're all mods. So if they show up,
It
they'll have
is what it
wrenches.
be.
Yeah. All right. So I invited you on here not to sit here and banter about moderators and other things. Before we get into anything specific, you have a channel that's been around a very long time and doing
Yeah.
music critique, doing I believe you've done like parodies, rewrites, covers, etc., etc., etc. So what would you say to like if you were to describe your channel Become the Night, how would you describe it at this point?
The tagline is I complain a lot about music and play it every once in a while is kind of the general vibe. So one of the pitches early on of like Mike the Music Snob was that this is a guy a guy who's giving review and reaction from someone who actually understands music, makes music, is good at music, you know. And I wasn't as good at music as I originally thought when I started. But I certainly talked like I was, for sure. You'd be surprised what you can get away with if people just believe you and you're really confident in yourself.
Confidence is key with like I mean the discussion I had with somebody else, they're like if you have a podcast you have main character syndrome, so you're just going to assume at some point you're good at something. And I think we've all been there. We've all assumed we're good at
Yeah,
something,
for
because
sure.
if we didn't we wouldn't be putting stuff out into the world.
Yeah, that's probably
Maybe.
true. That's probably
Anyway,
true.
so when did you start with music? How young were you when you got into it?
Oh, jeez. Like when I first started really realizing I had an interest in it, probably 6. When my
Six,
dad got
okay.
me my dad got me like a little crappy Yamaha keyboard. It was great. Loved it. Loved that thing so much. Wrote a couple like little stupid songs. Didn't know a lick of theory. But I had a blast with it. And took up trumpet a little bit in elementary school, and that was kind of like cool for a minute. And then I was just like, yeah, this is also kind of lame. They're like, oh, do all these like weird things. I'm like, I don't want to do these weird. Tell me how to play a good song. No, you have to do all these weird things. No, I don't. Just tell me how to play a freaking song, dude. It's
You're
not
like
that
Shawnee
hard.
Smoke on the Water or something.
Yeah, on a trumpet. Yeah, exactly. Freaking, you know. But yeah, so left that behind. Still had that keyboard around for a minute, but it wasn't until middle school when I was chilling with my friend Chris over at his place, and he was playing drums, and I was like, man, I'd love to pick up an instrument. You know, it's like always way about it. And his dad had like a bass guitar and like a regular guitar. He's like giving me the bass. He's like, here, try it out. So I'm like, okay, I'm holding it like this and like trying to play it. And I'm just like, this is so unnatural. So when he goes upstairs, I flip it upside down and I start like way better at it, left-handed, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it's upside down, I'm like, oh, this is so much easier. he's like, no, 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 you got to do it this way. And they're like, okay. Goes back upstairs. I flip it back over. Gotta do it. So it was like after that experience that I go home and I say to my dad, like, hey, I really want a guitar for Christmas, please, and please make sure it's left-handed, please,
Those are a little harder to come by.
Yeah, it was the worst mistake I could have made for myself, was learning left-handed right out the gate, and just like everyone's like, oh, dude, like these going to a guitar shop is the best experience. Not for me. I can't play anything in there. It's like,
are you left-handed?
Like, yeah, I'm a left-handed player.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Every
No.
guitar
I meant like
left-handed.
when you write and everything else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Like for almost everything. I think I throw a football right-handed, and I think I kick left-legged. I forget all the things, but yeah, it's weird. Or no, kick right-legged. I don't remember.
At least half of my kids, I say half and I have 5, half of my kids are left-handed. So,
Awesome.
and I say half because one of them is like ambidextrous. Like he literally does everything with both hands.
That counts.
He showed up to baseball one time and he was batting right-handed. Then he saw his brother was batting left-handed. And he said, Dad, I'm switching hands. And I was like, really? Okay. And he went up to bat and he nailed it. I was like, I'm never questioning you again.
In baseball, that is a sick skill.
If he actually liked baseball, that would be great. But he does not care at all. But anyway, I was like, okay, I'm not questioning this anymore. You can do both. You can do both. Sounds good.
Heck yeah.
But so you do left-handed guitar and bass, or just guitar now?
I mean, I can pick up a bass and do some things. I wouldn't call myself a bassist. Like, I don't know any special techniques.
You said you did trumpet for a little while. Did you band through like all of school, or?
No. I don't know. That whole system never really interested me. And I think it's because of moments like that where like they're teaching me all this stuff I don't give a crap to learn about. Yeah. I want to go learn the things that I want to learn, and I'm going to figure out how to learn them. And that was probably the coolest thing about guitar was I picked it all up by ear and by tab, Like after a while I got good enough with the instrument and my ear that I didn't need the tab book anymore. Like I just like figured it out for myself. And that also started to get over to like, okay, I want to start playing solos now. And I try, and it's like awful, and it's so difficult for me. It's like such a pain, to the point where my dad finally got me lessons, and it just like unlocked so much. Just like 3 months of guitar lessons unlocked a ton for me on the instrument. Yeah,
when you say guitar lessons, do you mean like you went to somewhere and got lessons, or you used like a program?
I don't know. I went to like an actual instructor.
Okay.
Dude kills. He's really, really good.
Yeah, we had an instructor in our area, and he was like the only game in town. So like you had to find a slot with him if you wanted to learn guitar or piano or anything like that, outside of like band class at school and whatnot.
Yeah, and like I was like, man, this is not talking crap on any band teachers, but like, freaking, I don't. It's useful. It's useful, but there's a ceiling, especially for people like me who think differently and are very independent and don't love authority, and they're just like, you must stick to this structure. It's like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? The only reason why you're giving me is because you said so. Like that. I mean, you want to talk about one of the primary things that got me to fall away from my faith is the just because you said so. You don't have any other better reason than that.
Yeah,
obviously
I can
that doesn't work.
That a little bit.
Okay, word, yeah. So like, obviously that doesn't jive super well with the Catholic Church, or the Catholic faith for that matter.
Yeah, there's an obedience virtue there.
Yeah, absolutely, and a faith, spiritual fruit that I was definitely lacking in, and it. Well, we don't have to get into all of that right now, but that can be for a different part of the conversation.
Absolutely, faith will definitely be a part of this conversation. But we're still into your music and your growing up and all that. So let's go through that. How old were you when you started Become the Night?
Oh.
And did you have a YouTube channel before that, or was that your first one?
That was the first like real one. It was either 24 or 25 when I started that. I think I want to say 25. I had been here a year, and I felt like I wasted that whole year. even though like I met a few guys, it was just like I met those few guys, and we did a whole year of rehearsals and like some writing and barely got anywhere. And I was just like, this is like, especially when I wasn't the one in charge. Again, one of these whole like, what freaking, just because you say so, you know? Well, if I got to say so, it'd be better. One of those things.
I could definitely understand that.
Yeah. So I went and did it on my own. That was like really this, like, it was two things. It was that experience of being like, I feel like I'm dealing with people who are making decisions who are not as talented or wise as I am in music shit. And on top of that, I'm like taking in all of this like YouTube gaming content because I'm like super lonely at this time, like very, very lonely. And that is giving me a lot of solace. Definitely a little bit towards the unhealthy side of, but before we had this term, the parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What kind of gaming channels were you listening to at the time? Did you have any specific ones you liked?
Game Theory, Game Grumps. I wasn't sure if I was quite into Markiplier at that time or not, but
okay.
There's a few different ones there, and like seeing them as just being like normal guys who just like started doing this and figured it out and were hilarious and garnered these huge followings. I'm like, I bet I could do this for music. Like I could totally do this for music. You know, like I'm gonna take a shot at this because this seems like it's legitimately the future. That was my thought, is like social media is going to be the way that we start breaking free from labels. And I was kind of right and kind of wrong on that. But
because there was some cool independent artists coming up in the early to mid to even late 2000s that were doing it, you know, in whatever way was possible. Like, for example, I remember watching Macklemore at the time. He was doing it independently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did everything
Mar.
independently. Yeah. Yeah, hey Mar, what's up? He was doing it independently coming up, and I was watching that and I was like, that's really cool. I want to get in on that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing though. I was like 14 or something when he was coming up. And yeah, so the independent artist thing is very big now. You've got some huge artists that are independent. So you're right. That was exactly where things were going.
Yeah. And like many other things in my life, I thought I was going to be better at it, or thought I was better at it than I actually was. But you know,
I've listened to your guys' songs. Your songs are very good.
Oh, thank you. I was talking less the songs and more the content making itself. But
okay.
I would also say on the songs side as well, I learned a lot over that several years doing the channel, between garnering enough attention to where I was actually like attracting like actually talented musicians, you know.
I understand.
That was great. That taught me so much. That taught me a ton. And I was able to kind of leech off of their knowledge and wisdom so that I could level up my own game that way. And it was really, really helpful. Super helpful. I'm incredibly grateful to them. And then a lot of times they would ask me for like social media advice, but not all the time. So it was kind of like the back and forth there professionally in that sense.
And you did the YouTube full time for about 7 years, you said?
Yeah.
And at what point did you transition to full time? Or were you doing a side job to begin with and then basically able to drop that?
So I was doing full-time work up until May of 2018, I believe is when that was. So
okay, so about 2018 is when you stopped having to do a second job on top of YouTube?
Yeah, it was actually Star Wars Day. It was May the 4th.
Nice. My daughter's birthday.
Nice, yeah.
Although
it was like naturally.
One, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she just turned 1 yesterday, so.
Happy birthday to your daughter.
Absolutely.
But with the last job that I had, I was there for like 2 years, and it was naturally transitioning that way that the sector that I was in was being phased out, and they were considering keeping me around because I was actually like useful. Mm-hmm. They were considering keeping me around and finding a position, and I probably would have just had to like wait and not do anything and get paid for it for a while. And I was interviewing for like this really high visibility team that was going to be like a pay increase and it was going to be really cool. And I wasn't like properly prepared for it, but I was recommended from one manager to another. And he's like, okay, look, here's this binder, learn this, come back and interview. And if I like you, you're in. Like, okay. So I took it home. I start learning this stuff. And I'm just like, I should be making videos. Like, like why am I investing myself into learning something that I really don't care about other than the fact that I'm going to be making some more money out of it? You know, like I should be focusing this time that I'm putting here, my spare time, into learning this, into making more videos and getting better at music and all this other stuff. So I was like, that's what I moved down here for. So that was when I was like, it's time to quit. Mm-hmm. I wasn't able to fully pay my bills with it on its own. And like I put a video out to my fans like, hey, I'm about to quit and go full time and I'm not quite there, but if you guys like help me with some support on Patreon, that'd be amazing, you know. And they almost completed closing the whole gap. I picked awesome. Up doing I picked up doing karaoke DJing, KJ, as a side gig for a couple months. That was kind of fun.
I imagine that would be fun, actually, because you probably get like the best and the worst all at once.
Yeah, to a degree. Especially in Nashville, you get like some really outstanding singers, but you also get tons of just absolute lushes.
Somebody who gets drunk enough thinks they can sing just like everybody else.
And who doesn't understand public decorum.
Oh, no.
That's great.
I've only ever sang at a bar or something like that. Other than when I was trying to do the music full time back in the day. There was a band, their singer had like lost his voice midway through their set. They're like, can anybody sing? I think it was House of the Rising Sun. And I was like, I can. So I went up there and I sang one song. And then they brought up a different person for a couple different songs. Finally, the singer got his voice back from, I don't know if he's doing shots or what, but it was pretty cool.
Nice.
But I don't like doing the karaoke thing personally. That's not really my thing, but I'd love to listen to other people try.
I used to have a good time doing it. I used to actually really love doing it a lot, but something changed around COVID where I did it less, and I don't know, it seemed like it was probably an intersection of a few different things. Like sure, I used to like love getting up there and singing karaoke. It was great. And I still enjoy it. I mean, when I went to Matt Frad's cigar thing in Steubenville, I got up for a song, did a New York State of Mind.
Did they have karaoke?
Ish.
Ish, okay.
They had like a band, and if they knew the song, or like if enough people knew the song, they'd just like do it, and you could sing it. And the guy who was playing piano is also one of the co-owners of Chesterton's, and
nice.
He's a little worse for wear that evening, you know. And we were doing New York State of Mind. I asked for Anthony's song. I asked for Moving Out, but he gave me New York State of Mind. And I'm fine with that. My voice was like, don't care if it's Chinatown, you know, like getting up there. Don't care if it's Chinatown, like trying to make sure I'm not gonna blow my voice out and hit the notes clean and everything. I'm just like, bro, you're doing this to me. I've been drinking all evening and smoking cigars, and you're making me go for these notes in my register. My mixed voice is trash right now. What are you doing? Fine, we'll do New York State of Mind. This is what happens when it's not the way I want things to be. This is what happens, okay?
You're belting out like falsetto, trying not to kill your voice.
No, I didn't do that. I took it like a man. I actually did pretty good. I did like better than I had done in a long time. Everyone gave me great compliments. That felt really good.
Now, do you like to sing, or do you prefer to be an instrument when it comes to bands and music?
I love singing. I don't love singing professionally.
I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So how many bands have you been a part of over the years?
Not many.
Not many.
There's like one in high school, kind of maybe one-ish. Nah, it wasn't even really. Like, we tried to toss something together. We just didn't have enough people in college. I was in another one when I was up here in down here in Nashville. And then that was like the first one that I joined, and that was just like I'm just done dealing with people who are just not giving a. They say they give a shit, but they don't really give a shit. And then one more, it was like a pop cover band. That was actually a lot of fun. I played bass in a pop cover band. It was great.
Was it like the pop goes punk kind of thing?
No, it was just like a bunch
okay.
of like fairly well known oldies classic rock songs. You know.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Were you into ska back in the day like everybody else was?
Hell to the no. I was wise enough to know how stupid that was right up front.
No 99 red balloons for you, huh?
Nope. Zero.
I think the
Zero.
closest thing to ska I listened to growing up, other than Goldfinger, because everybody liked Goldfinger for a brief period of time.
Yeah, freaking Superman. It's a great song. It's a fantastic song.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But
with,
I mean,
with Tony
do they
Hawk's Pro
really,
Skater, yeah.
do they really have anything else though?
Well, then there was like Smash Mouth. I think they technically count as a ska band.
Do they?
That's what it's listed in like the genre in my iTunes.
Hold on. All right.
I mean, I could be wrong. I'm
Smash
fine with that.
Mouth ska. Yes, Smash Mouth was a ska band. Well,
That's what I'm saying.
While not exclusively a ska band, Smash Mouth initially started as a ska punk band. Okay. I'll allow it. That's fine.
Like for me, it was like Smash Mouth, Goldfinger. That was pretty much it for me as far as ska goes. But
That's acceptable.
And the most of that was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Shrek that introduced me to those two bands.
Friggin' Shrek, dude.
Well, that and like Hallelujah got super popular again from Shrek, bringing it back during that one brief.
Whose cover of that song was on the Shrek? Because that one's my favorite one so far.
You can only get it through the Scrubs soundtrack. For the John Cale, that's who it was.
Okay.
John Cale. He did. So it's actually funny. That's a live performance that they edited the crap out of to make it sound like a studio production.
Okay, that sounds right. Okay.
And then the version you get if you buy the Shrek soundtrack is by a guy named Rufus Wainwright, which just made me so mad.
You gotta say that would piss me off.
He's got a very nasally voice compared to John Cale, who's got this deep, booming, low voice. And that's my favorite rendition too.
He had such good dynamics and great expression, and freaking who's the guy who read it? Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen can't sing for jack shit. Let's be honest.
The heart and soul's there, but
okay, sure, but like, let's be honest. Like, I would rather listen to Bob Dylan than Leonard Cohen. I'd rather listen to freaking Lou Reed, and he's dead, than Leonard Cohen.
So is Leonard Cohen.
Well, there you go.
He died, I think, in 2019. It was before COVID.
Well, God rest him for the repose of his soul.
Have you heard that he wrote like 100 verses for that song?
No, I didn't know that.
So he wrote like 100 verses. So if you listen to his version versus the one that John Cale belted out for Shrek, and actually John Cale singing it influenced what ended up being the most famous version of Hallelujah in like the 80s, because the singer that made it famous died shortly after he recorded it. And I can't remember what his name is, but it was electric. It wasn't quite acoustic. It was electric guitar, but nothing else, and a voice, and that was it. And his version ends up being the one we know today. He picked the verses, did the thing, John Cale and him, and that's Jeff Buckley. That's right, Jeff Buckley, I think, is the one that did it.
Freaking Jeff Buckley. Okay, that's who you're talking about. Yeah,
yes,
Jeff Buckley did a good version. It's not my favorite.
His version is the one that wound up on a CD that made it famous, because John Cale's version was just like a live performance thing he was doing.
That makes sense.
There's actually
Jeff Buckley kills. Have you heard
awesome.
Grace?
That's pretty much like his only album before he died, isn't it?
Well, not the whole album, but like the actual
Just the
song Grace.
Oh yes, yeah. I've heard the whole album. I think I listened to it a few times back when I originally got the Hallelujah song from his album.
Okay. Word. Okay. Yeah, that song Grace is just destruction. It's so good.
You can just tell like when somebody has extreme vocal talent, and Jeff Buckley has extreme vocal talent.
It's like it feels like it's not taught. Like that was all him discovering it. It feels so organic.
Pretty. How like his high notes, his low notes, everything is just.
It's a good description.
It's right there. It's like you knew he was gonna die because it's so perfect. And after that, he just goes and dies. It's like, wow.
You
Okay.
sound like a man who's probably gonna kill himself.
Well, he didn't. Allegedly, he drowned because he was swimming. So who knows?
I
But
heard he drowned because he jumped off a bridge, but I don't know.
I don't know
there's
if the
different speculation on that.
I haven't looked too deeply into it. I do know it was a swimming accident of some sort, allegedly from the newspaper articles I read.
There is
But-
definitely water involved. For
Yeah,
sure.
there was water involved. Yeah, there was water and lack of air involved.
See.
But the other one that is really neat is Bon Jovi, their band. They did a live cover of it. I don't know if it was MTV or something. It's very good as well. It's kind of surprisingly good. Which Bon Jovi's good, but it's very good. You should listen to that one sometime when you get a chance.
Haley says the greatest version of Hallelujah debuted in 1985.
Isn't that when Jeff Buckley did his?
No, I think she's talking.
Or is she talking about herself? Oh, herself. Oh my gosh, it went right over my head. I'm sorry, I'm tired today, guys.
How dare you?
Savansky's. I'll have to listen to that one though. I've never heard of Savansky. Period. So
Maybe that's her last name. Who knows?
maybe. I've actually funny that we've been talking about this song so long. I've actually done a parody of the Hallelujah song one time for a very obscure gaming channel, and they used it. It's a very long story. Have you heard of the channel Hard for Games?
Not offhand.
Okay, well they test lots of like prototype gaming consoles and stuff, and so they usually will test the Shrek GBA cart on Game Boy Advance prototypes. And they've done it so much it became a meme for the channel.
That's good.
And so I wrote a song to go with Shrek on the GBA on the prototype carts for their channel, and they created this abomination of a music video for it, and it's still on their channel, and I'm just happy to have been a part of it. It's ridiculous. Don't listen to it, but go and listen to it.
So proud to be a part of this. Do not listen to it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Shrek is great.
probably the coolest thing music-wise that ever happened to me personally was I wrote. You remember Old Town Road, and it was like the hype of its.
Yes, I do.
About like 3 years after that, it was like a year or two after that, I did a parody of it for the Halo series, and the official Halo channel shared it on their blog, so that was kind of
That's
cool.
sick. That's super
Yeah.
cool.
I would have thought it got more views out of that because there's a couple other ones that have like 1 million views or something insane.
Freaking, who looks at blogs?
Exactly. Exactly.
Come on. It's still sick. That's still awesome.
It was fun. Yeah, it was cool.
Like freaking the thing I was most proud of as a sound engineer was doing my making Dyer's Eve not sound like crap video where I remixed the stems, and I used the Cornif AIP. Cornif is a plugin company, but also the last name of like a very popular engineer, and he Dan Corniff and his company shared my video on their socials and in their marketing email. I was like, no way.
That's
A
pretty neat.
master class of bottom end? Yeah, dude. Yeah. I'm a
Oh,
real
man.
boy now.
Oh, we have a question for you. Might as well jump into this one real quick.
No. Not only do I not do Bruce Springsteen covers, I cannot stand Bruce Springsteen. I think he is one of the most overrated artists of all time. For a guy who really doesn't have that much depth of music theory or aesthetics, he is so incredibly self-indulgent. It's impressive. It is so impressive. Mr. I'm the blue-collar everybody guy. I'm just a down-to-earth man. Also, I have an ego bigger than fricking the America that I sing about all the time. Oh, what did you fucking get out of here.
Well, my
Get-
favorite part about that song is that the
No.
whole song was intended to trash America, and it gets
Yes,
used
and
as
everyone
like a
uses
theme
it as an
song.
anthem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like and he gets all the credit for it, and he just pretends like, oh yeah, that was my original intention.
Dancing in the Dark is a cute song, Hamar. I'll give you that. It's cute.
All right.
It'd be awesome if he didn't sing like this.
It's like the fake smoker thing going on.
Yeah.
Because he's just more like shouting than has the actual smoker problem.
Oh, man.
Although he might have been a smoker. I really don't know.
There's so many words I want to use that I will not because they're not appropriate.
So your favorite band must be Nickelback, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Have you ever heard how he gets his voice to sound like that? Have you?
Again, things I'm not allowed to, or I shouldn't say not allowed, shouldn't say on this live stream.
Have you ever heard though how what because he explained it one time and I was like, whoa, that's weird.
No, go for it.
He like whispers it with a raspy voice, and they just put
that's how a ton of guys start. Like a ton of guys. I mean, they're not going for the like rasp sing. They're going for the straight up, like the full thing.
Breaking Benjamin, I'll give, and 3 Days Grace, I'll give that. But
dude,
Nickelback,
look, Nickelback. It's fine to like dunk on them and everything. Like I'll be the first one to do it. But they unironically have fantastic productions. They
do, yeah.
Amazing live shows. He actually sings at his live shows. That's all them playing. They are tight. They're super tight, and they do know how to write good songs. I despise their lyrics for a lot of the songs. I would say it's actually horrific and evil to some degree. But like an actually talented band with actually talented guys. They're very self-aware.
Oh yeah. They swung into the memes hard.
Creed or Nickelback, I like more Creed songs, but for production quality I would pick Nickelback. And also for vocalist quality. Like, okay, look, Chad Kroeger is a meme, and make fun of him for days. I'm here for it. He's also an amazing singer. He's a really good singer.
And they really know how to market themselves and put out music that'll hit the radio waves every time.
It also helps if your government sponsors for things like this to happen too. That might also help a little bit too.
Does
Canadians.
I was gonna say, isn't he Canadian? I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah, they're a bunch of freaking Canucks.
You know what my favorite Canadian band is? Like, nobody's ever heard of these guys, but I just happened to hit them on the algorithm one time. You ever heard of a band called Jackson Crook?
Nope.
Or Johnson Crook. Johnson. Oh my gosh, I said it wrong. They've got.
I know Johnson Crook. Yeah,
Crook,
I've never heard of them ever in my life.
They've got a song. The first time I heard it, so one of their songs goes like Minnedosa, and it's like I thought they were accidentally mispronouncing Minnesota because like a drunk singer song. No, Minnedosa is in Canada. I didn't know that. So dummy me.
The more you know.
Exactly, but their songs are great. They've got like the harmonics of like Mumford and Sons in some of their songs. You know, like
already out. Already out.
But they don't have the banjo, and they've got less than like 2,000 people that have ever subscribed to their channel. So
I'm like the moment we start doing the stomp clap with the stereotypical freaking reverb on everything, and we have the dude who could be completely replaceable as a vocalist sitting around here singing about pretty much nothing of note. I'm done.
The Mumford and Sons lyrics are nonsense most of the time.
Yeah,
Johnson Crook actually has
it's
like
music to sell iPhones.
Yeah, they've got meaningful lyrics to their songs. I just meant like when you come to like vocal harmonics, like Mumford and Sons has got it really well with the vocal harmonics. Their chords that they hit with they just sound really nice. The chords that they do with their various vocals and whatnot. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's just my personal opinion.
You better
I like their vocal harmonics, not necessarily what they're saying. And that does matter, although it doesn't matter when you're on the radio. As long as you can sing to it and have a catchy tune.
Jim, I fully disagree with you, sir. Jim over here being like, Sleep Token, songwriting is top tier right now. Top tier production. Incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. Their production is pretty good. I will give them that. It's pretty stinking good. The writing, no. It is a facade. It's an absolute facade. Look, the thing that my colleague Trey Xavier coined was the term riff salad. And that's where these young metal kids sit down and they're just guitar players and they just tie one riff to another riff to another riff. They're not even necessarily in the same freaking tempo, for crying out loud. But they just do the thing because that's what all the other really crappy low-tier thrash bands have done for so long. They don't actually know how to write songs. They just have a few riffs that they slap together and call that music. Sleep Token is really close to the same thing as that on many occasions, except instead of doing it with riffs, they do it with genres.
So have you ever heard of...
The aesthetics don't match their lyrics. Sorry, they don't.
There's a song from, and this is going to be... I'm outing myself as somebody who's listened to this, but there was this CD growing up called Dr. Demento. You ever heard of this thing?
Yeah. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but yeah.
There's like a thing, I think it's called like Earache My Eye or something. And so he's like playing these 3 chords, like do-do-do, do-do-do, over and over and over again. And then he goes, and I only know 3 chords. And it's like, that's what I'm hearing coming out of you right now. Like,
oh, okay. Well, that's not the same as like Sleep Token knows.
No. I know what you're saying. It just cracks me up because it's like you can get away with not knowing much, putting out a song that hits the radio and like instant fame, and never have to worry about it.
Which is also fine, for the record. That's completely fine.
Oh yeah,
I'm less interested in someone making the most complicated thing ever, and I'm more interested in someone using aesthetics to help someone connect with good, like actual good, not just subjective good, like actual good. That's where I'm at. I didn't used to always be that way, but I'm much more there now than I ever have been.
Here's a different question then.
Sure.
You said you got a lot of, maybe, I don't know if you would say collaborations or discussions with other YouTubers in the music space. What would you say were some of the coolest features or collaborations that you were involved with?
Oh, friggin', can you bring up shit on your...
I can bring up your
stream?
channel.
No, don't bring up my channel.
Okay, I won't then. Huh.
Don't bring,
what do you want me to bring
up
up?
my channel. Hold on, let me see. I think it was 3. Hold on. So this one? Yeah, it's this one.
Did you put it in the private chat, or where did you put it?
I'm about to, sir.
Okay, all right.
There you go. This was hands down the coolest collab. Okay, it's either this or interviewing John Petrucci. Those are the 2 top things for me in my career, which all happened around the same year. Right, interviewing John Petrucci was like surreal. I still don't like. I feel like I'm more disassociated during that interview than anything, just to keep it together.
I've had like it's funny you say that. I've had a few like when I was early on in the podcasting, because I've been podcasting like almost 6 years now. When I was early on in my podcasting, like bigger channels would be like, "Oh yeah, I'll come on." I would like log in, do my intro, and then like forget that I was there doing the interview, and like, oh wait, I need to ask questions. What am I doing here? It's like these people would give me their time, and it's like, why are you giving me your time? You guys are awesome. You know what I mean? And then like the more you get into it, you realize people are like just generally nice with this kind of stuff. Like you know, I appreciate you coming on the channel and doing this interview. Nobody has to give you their time, but it's really nice that everybody, seems to be open to that kind of thing. Yeah, so this was the one you said was one of the coolest one.
Yeah, this is tied for top place as far as like I holy shit, I made it. Rarely happens in anyone's lives.
Where is you? That's terrible English. Are you in in the list here?
Right below Nick Nocturnal. It's towards the top.
Nocturnal.
They're all in.
Oh yeah, there you are. Duh.
They're all in temporal order.
Temporal order. Okay. All right. Very cool. I would share the music, but I'd be worried YouTube would copyright.
It's not going to copyright it. It's not going to copyright it.
All right.
No. This is all.
Hopefully, it won't sound like.
It's a shred collab. Jared sent us all backing tracks, and we just made shit up. That was the vibe.
Can you guys hear this?
I can hear it great.
So let's get to you then, I guess.
If you keep talking, it ducks it, so we should be quiet. That's a nasty solo. You know it's a nasty solo. Nice.
No, it's very good. I really liked it. But the face you made when you logged off had me cracking up. It was like
yes, exactly. Yes. This is what we call being
Excellent.
YouTube literate. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, you got to. I mean, the presentation is everything with some of this stuff. Like, for example, the way you dress.
It's
even,
so important.
You know?
It's so important. Oh, I didn't give a crap about how I was dressing. That was probably the worst thing I did.
I just meant, like, as I roll through this video, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting outfits for this video.
Here and there. Oh, also, like, some of the guys that were in here, like, Kiko... Fuck, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. The guy was the lead player for the longest time. Like,
right
Matt Heafy is in this video, Tosin Abasi, fucking Tim Henson. Like, this is not a bullshit-ass, like, lineup. I was included with all of these people. I was deemed worthy to be in the same... Yeah. Like this to me was like a holy crap moment in my career. It was a wow.
What year was this? 2019, yeah. On Christmas.
Yeah. And then, like, following that was NAMM, and then also the
Did you drop any
the Rob Chapman video. The Rob Chapman video. That was a whole thing. Holy cow.
I remember watching this years ago and did not even notice.
Yep, that sounds correct. I would say most people didn't notice. But that also makes it really cool, because then I can, like, whip it out and show people, and they're like, holy crap, that was you. It's like actually an advantage in its own way. It's kind of cool.
I have to say, what's funny about, like, big collabs is sometimes, like, everybody notices and sometimes no one notices.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre.
It's what
like,
it is.
How like, you'll do something that you think, like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done, and, like, no one notices, and then you do something else, and it's like you just, like, slap it out there, and it hits, like, a crazy amount of views, and everybody starts noticing. It's like, why would you? Yeah.
That was that's actually, like, a really good example of something in my career that I would say was a really important catalyst for a turning point for me. I was always very hard-lined on, like, the best quality things or the things that deserve to be loved the most and blah, 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 blah. And I made a song basically out of, like, a little bit of seasonal depression between seeing just absolutely beautiful and wonderful people like AOC getting a lot of attention and traction in the news media. You know, she's just like an absolute model citizen to emulate.
I'm trying to sense sarcasm here. I'm starting to feel it.
I'm very dry, sir. Between that and the fact that I'd, like, my fans were trying to get me really hard to, like, enjoy black metal, and I just made a whole video being like, black metal sucks ass. Like, it unironically sucks ass, and I think it sucks ass on purpose. And I don't know why you guys like listening to this. It's stupid. So I got, like, a ton of hate for that. So, like, between those two things, like, converging, I was like, I'm going to make a black metal song that black metal people enjoy listening to, but that is also unironically good. And I don't know what to talk about, so I'm going to talk about, well, here, I'll spoil it, since I don't think many people are going to be grabbing this in the meantime. But I wrote it about socialists coming to America and ruining America. And I didn't tell anyone what it was about, because I kept it fairly coded. There's a song called Won't Be Saved. And I, like, marketed it on my YouTube channel as, like, I made a song that sounds like Opeth, and it sounds a lot like Opeth. But when I published it to Spotify, it was just like, yeah, it's there if you want to listen to it. Years ago, it crossed 1 million streams on Spotify.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I did no marketing to it. That was all organic, completely organic.
That's honestly the best way to get your music spread, because it costs nothing other than your time you put in the beginning to make it.
That took a week. That took a week start to finish.
And then on top of that, it means people are finding it organically. That's really the best way.
They aren't finding it as much anymore, but even still, like, going back, like, at the time I was like, oh yeah, this song's great, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. Going back now that I've learned so much, I'm like, oh, this is, like, bad. Like, the production is bad. The singing performance is bad. It's not bad. It's not great, you know? And it
Now,
made me have...
when you produced it, how much of it was real instruments and how much of it was stuff you did in software?
It was all real except for the drums.
Yeah, the drums are hard to do unless you have like a drum setup for recording. Just in general.
Yeah, but like I got my friend Steve to play the bass. I wrote the bass parts. He just played them.
Nice.
I didn't know what the heck I was doing mixing wise. I mean, I had some idea of what I was doing, but I didn't really know what I was doing in order to make things like huge and clean and polished and everything. And yeah, like that was really formative for me to realize later, like, oh, even though I look at this and cringe because I see all the I probably don't even see all the flaws, but I see a whole lot of the flaws. It was still a well-written song. It's like it wasn't like an amazingly written song, but it was a well-written song, and I think that's a huge part of its credit is that the song was there even if the production wasn't.
I feel like when you're living the writing of a song, it feels great, and then you come back to it later and you recognize every little thing you would have done differently.
Yeah, I mean
that's the self-criticism of music. Yeah, like literally, I can't think of a song that me or any of my friends have put out where we haven't gone back later and be like, ooh, what was I doing? At some point.
That's definitely part of it, but it really helped me chill out a lot more on being such an asshole to other people's music, and being less of a quote-unquote perfectionist in that sense, especially since I had made songs after that I thought were objectively better, and they performed worse, you know?
So like that is just, yeah, it's kind of one of those things you never know how somebody's going to perform, right?
Yeah, and a certain level of humble pie, but also, like, really helping inform me, like, okay, people are not valuing the same thing that I value. And like I've already known for a while that I'm like a different kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
But this really helped me understand, like, it's not just about me, if that makes any sense. From an artist perspective, not from a judgy person perspective. Like, it's not just about me. That was kind of like the turning point to where I started to head down this trail that would lead me to this current philosophy. I would say it's a really important part of my development, if I had to guess. Hey, Lepanto, what's up?
Getting some of that humble pie you're talking about with the objectively better music not performing as well as your previous music did.
Well, objectively in quotes.
Objectively I guess everything's subjective at some point, but objectively in your mind, this is a better song, but it's performing not as well, and that is a humbling moment. I feel like,
yeah,
because I would even argue that sometimes your friends and family will like your earlier stuff, even if what you've done more recently is better, because it feels, I don't know. There's something unique about every artist when they start, and in order to make objectively better music, I almost feel like things get more similar to what the industry is doing rather than the uniqueness you start with. It doesn't always happen.
I think there's something to that for sure. Can we talk about formulas? Because I feel like a lot of people find it fun to crap on formulas, and then other people who have leftist music video essay channels find it fun to subvert expectations and talk about how great formulas are, but they don't actually talk about why the formulas are good, because they don't have the epistemology to actually talk about objective good. It's just subjectivity. Well, objectively, we can freaking go and get feedback studies, and these people say that they like it, so it means it must be objectively enjoyed, at least. Like, thank you so much, dude. You just like, we could have gone from A to B really fast, but instead you wanted to sound smarter than everyone else watching your video, so we went off on this side quest to talk about science that no one gives a crap about, and philosophy that's probably not even applicable to what we're talking about right now, but it makes you look really smart. Well done.
We're still this is still about the leftist commentary channels, huh?
Oh, don't give me this.
I was friends with a few of those channels back in the day. Just FYI,
I'm
I know
sorry.
exactly who you're talking about. Like some of them, anyways.
I'm so sorry. But okay, but regardless, so like freaking like oh, where are we going with this? Oh yeah, with the formulas. Okay.
Formulas.
So I think the reason why the formulas exist, not the reason why they're abused, but the reason why they exist is because they actually touch something true.
That makes sense.
Like if we're actually acknowledging that we're playing in a world of aesthetics, and aesthetics is directly like the other side of the coin of meaning, you know,
Yeah,
those formulas are extremely meaningful. Now, again,
absolutely.
they're probably abused, they're probably overused, and I would say that a lot of times people are leaning on them as crutches these days more than anything else. However, I think that they speak truth that is extremely universal to the human condition.
Now, when you say formulas, it makes me think of like for specific types of music, you have like different
Hey,
chord
Danny.
progressions you're going to use specifically, or like, and maybe I'm hitting this in the wrong realm, but it seems like specific ways of writing music are going to work for specific genres objectively better than if you go at it with something that's not generally used in that genre.
Possibly, it depends upon what we're referring to.
Sure.
I think that's I would say mostly true, for sure. Like I think you can get away with using the pop four in a thrash song, like the metalheads aren't going to notice as long as you're playing thrash style guitar. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, you could use the exact same. Okay, here's something. Nobody owns chord progressions, in my opinion, right? But then you
No,
get
they
people
don't.
that sue somebody else. That's what I'm saying. Um, but then you have like, what was it Viva La Vida years back? Like pretty much did note for note exactly the same thing as another song. He got sued over it. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Coldplay and all that.
I'd have to get a refresher on that.
I want to say
So
it
I feel like
was.
feel like Coldplay has been in a number of different copyright
Well,
lawsuits.
they have, and so is Ed Sheeran, and various other people. But I remember distinctly you could play the old song, and I think it was like Silver Surfers. I don't know. It was something. It was like Silver something, and it was like the Viva La Vida, and you could play them next to each other at the same tempo, and it was the exact same song,
Wow.
down to the melody of of the voice and the melody of the guitar, literally matched up perfect. Um, so I don't think there is a specific. I guess you could apply most formulas to most music, provided you do it right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean there has to be an element of creativity to it, you know. And when I say creativity, that is like the source, or I in this case I would say the conduit of creation, which would be us, you know.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to be very accurate in my philosophical terminology, the origin of being the conduit for that creativity
Yeah.
is kind of the ownership is the colloquial term we would use.
Sure. Oh, that makes sense. Do you want to take a quick little detour into how you maybe your faith journey, or is this a good
Yeah, sure.
transition point, you think?
Sure.
So, when you started the channel, did you have any kind of faith rolling into when you made it?
Nope.
Okay.
I was agnostic.
Were you raised in a specific
I
religion?
was raised super duper Catholic. Very Catholic. I
Okay,
would
so
say
you
more
started
Catholic than
Catholic.
most people. Yeah, like more people talk about how poor their catechesis was. Like I remember hearing Matt Fradd tell a story of how he like never learned about the rosary until he was like 18. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, my mom was like teaching me the rosary when I was like 5 and 6, like before bedtime. Like, I thought that was normal. I thought that was normal for kids. And I also did grow up in a more middle of nowhere conservative parish, so that there's probably something to that.
Was it Novus Ordo or TLM? I'm assuming Novus
Oh, it
Ordo.
was Novus Ordo.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my my priest when I was like 10 or 12 was like one of the first priests to start doing ad orientem, you know. So,
Oh, really?
oh yeah.
Nice.
And when I was 15, my dad hands me a freaking missal for we at that time we called it the Tridentine Mass.
It's
He
still
handed me a
referred to
missal.
that at times.
Yeah, yeah. He handed that to me because we're like, oh, Father Sharman's gonna have us do this mass if we learn it. I'm like, I'm gonna learn it. I didn't learn it, but yeah. So like my parents, while I was still in high school or like still in school in general, I don't remember exactly when, were third order lay Discalced Carmelites. They still
neat.
are to this day. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Like they took their faith incredibly seriously. All of my family does. That's actually one of those beautiful things about my reconversion is the fact that it's helped a few of my siblings kind of take their faith more seriously because they kind of feel like this extra energy coming off of me. But then also that's like this common bond that we all have now. And it's this awesome glue. It's this really awesome family glue, which I don't want to get too
Faith
far ahead of
is.
the story, but like
Faith
it's
is a very good glue for the family.
so good. It's so good. Either way, so getting back to I was, when I started the channel, quite agnostic. I still had like respect for my faith of old, but I mean, didn't treat it with any seriousness.
You didn't wander into anything else. I feel like probably not, right? You didn't like try anything else in the meantime.
No.
I feel like cradle Catholics very rarely will try something else. It's like, I think it was when I was on Tex Cathedra. I don't know if you know those guys or not, but
I do not.
he's like cradle Catholicism has its claws in you, and you don't want to go anywhere else. You just either come back or you leave it. You don't do.
It's almost as though there's a whole lot of truth in there if you've
Right.
been exposed to it.
Absolutely.
Like between like actually getting some really cool deeper theology from my dad and actually some from my mom too, and then like exploring the philosophical concepts of Babylon 5 as a teenager, there was like zero shot that a Protestant's gonna roll up and be like, oh, this is the truth. Be like, oh, is it really? Oh, is it? You have this real deep thing. There's like your personal relationship with Jesus. That's so profound, dude. Your buddy Christ over here. Freaking name. Yeah. So like there and I flirted for a while after having a mushroom experience with being atheist, and then I was able to reason my way out of that into being agnostic.
And so, at what point? I mean, you were already doing the channel then. You were agnostic. You had this experience. At what point do you start to come back?
The first turning point was, I don't remember exactly what was going on in my life, but it was an emotionally rough time. I don't remember what it is. And I was like on my way back from a bar, drunk, crying, and I don't even remember I don't remember what happened specifically. I don't think it was like a bad thing that happened that evening. I don't think. And I started conversing with God very, very plainly. And
I believe it, yeah.
And like basically like I hear all these things and my like if I'm expected to live a certain way, then I need to at least know that you're real and that you exist. So like basically came down to, if you're actually real, show me you're real, because otherwise I'm out. Like at that point, if I wasn't gonna get a sign, I was just like, this is BS, like freaking done.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I need a sign. And then I think it was, I stepped out for a cigarette, and then my brother texted me out of nowhere, which like he never texts me. Never. And he was like, hey, you want to talk? I was like, all right.
Sure.
All right. He's there.
Yeah.
He's definitely there. Like, okay. He's there. But that wasn't enough to actually get me to take any of it seriously. So I was always like believing in God, but not knowing whether or not it's a Christian God, and all this lame excuse to avoid responsibility. Sure. You know, like most leftists.
Well,
I was not a leftist.
Deism is like, okay, you can believe in God, but it's like you don't want to pick a religion, that kind of a thing, or you don't want to get serious about any specific.
You don't want to
religion.
pick a religion equals you don't want to take responsibility.
Exactly.
What
Yeah.
we're really talking about.
Deism is like no responsibility, but you believe in God. It's like I'm spiritual, but I don't follow organized religion.
You get to pretend you have the depth of the spiritual without having to have any of the actual depth, which requires, obligation.
Yeah, the second somebody says I believe in
truth-seeking.
God, but not organized religion, you're like, okay, I'm throwing out all of your opinions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
There's no way there's anything that's gonna.
What you like disorganized religion? Is that what you like?
Chaotic religion. Oh, my
That's the
goodness.
best kind.
I'll bring this one back up later, because we're in the middle of this. But
Sure.
I'm gonna favorite that one so I don't forget it later. All right, keep going.
Word.
So your
All right,
brother
so-
texts you.
Yeah, we just have a regular old conversation, and I make it through that evening. Then, I keep putting it off for like more years, and eventually, Biden's economy becomes a reality, along with the all the post-COVID inflation with that, and I was making good enough money before, but not great money. I was making enough to pay my bills, and this actually put like a choke point of like, oh crap, I might have to stop doing YouTube. I might like, not like completely, but like I might have to actually stop doing it full time,
Or at least have a second income of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to be like, okay, this is a big decision, so I should take this to God if I'm actually being. And this is also like a time in which I'm like drifting a little bit more rightward and more like positive towards religion, and kind of toying with the idea of orthodoxy, because I was still pretty strongly in a libertarian phase where I was like, I get what the Catholic Church says about this, but like the hierarchy of the magisterium is like built precisely to be corrupted because of X and X reason. Because like I also didn't understand how the magisterium actually works, and I still kind of don't fully understand how it works today, to be frank. But still, like it didn't work the way that I imagined that it did. So,
Libertarianism tends to reject organized religion in general because it looks at it as an institution to corrupt.
Libertarianism tends to reject anything that's actually quasi common sense, like truly and honestly, and it runs around fucking moralizing and self-aggrandizing to everyone about how righteously superior they are to every other human being on the planet. It's so disgusting. Yeah. It's so gross. They're sitting here talking about how great they are and how like, oh, like we're the real Christians, when like I would say more than half the time they have liberty as an idol. When freaking Jonathan Haidt is a moral psychologist, and he creates this framework on which to understand different people with different political alignments, how they value these different moral responses that we have in our instincts. And everyone is mapping on great except for the libertarians who aren't hitting all these spots. And then he has to make a brand new spot for moral disgust on whether it's for or against liberty, specifically just for the libertarians. Like that's beyond autism. Like it's terrible. That is bad. That is literally liberty as an idol. When the only thing you care about is whether or not it's my freedom or someone else's freedom, or if it's a lack thereof from your own perception. Not even in reality, just from your own perception.
I heard a libertarian argument one time where I was like, okay, this is morally indefensible. Like, how could you be okay with this? It was like something to the effect of sharing pictures that I'm not going to describe for YouTube reasons of persons of an age that's not appropriate, because people should decide for themselves.
Oh, you're talking about the free speech absolutist
and I
people.
was like, are you kidding me?
Well,
it's because there has to be a line drawn.
I don't think they actually believe it. I think that they believe that they have to justify it. Does that make sense? I don't think in their heart of hearts.
But if they truly defend that it's just, I can't subscribe to anything that would defend that. Does that make sense?
This is what we call evil. It's evil.
Yes, exactly.
I know that's a very difficult word for many American libertarians. The
I have
word
no
evil.
problem saying evil. No problem. My kids, it's
Evil
funny. My
exists.
kids will point out to me when I've described something to them, and they're like, "That sounds evil, Dad." I'm like, "You're right. I'm glad you're picking up on this."
Based kids.
Yeah, I know. Good. I don't think I need to describe who, but there's a person that was very prominent towards the end of last year who they referred to as the evil lady when they saw her signs driving down the road.
Malairs.
Anyway, so
She's probably an evil lady, if I had to guess.
most likely, or at least the whoever is in charge of that party helping her call the shots is, that's for sure. I don't want to judge anybody specifically, but
I think I have enough data to make an informed...
she probably is not a good person. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very charitable thing to say.
Now, as far as the libertarians, I have to say the most ridiculous thing I've seen coming out of the libertarians, and this is sidetracking hardcore, and I apologize, but
That's fine.
do you remember that thread where somebody was trying to make it out like the Saint Michael prayer was related to like this?
That was James Lindsay.
I know
and
it was.
That he's not a libertarian.
Oh, he's not? What is he then?
No, he's a older school kind of 90s liberal type.
Classical liberal, as they describe themselves.
I would say he leans more in the classical liberal direction. I don't know where he's at as far as like government spending and entitlements, but he's more in that realm. Yeah, I remember him doing that.
He's like 90s were heights of America. Is that kind of where he's at? Like,
I would say ish. He's more hyper focused against woke.
Yeah, I know.
He's also entrenched in this whole right wing woke,
which
or
doesn't
whatever.
exist flat out, in my opinion.
Or
if it does, he's that thing.
It depends. It depends upon what definition we're using. Like, so like the people that are constantly blaming the Jews, I would say, is the closest thing we have to woke right, but it's really not properly aligned with what woke is,
right?
Which is that the best boiled down description I've heard is from Sitch on Sitch and Adams live stream, and he describes it as waking up to the realization that liberalism is insufficient to address all of society's woes, and that we need basically postmodern and neo-socialist ideas to bring us out of those. And
Sure.
I wouldn't say that most of the people on the woke right, in quotes, really fit that description, even though there's a lot of crossover and there's a whole lot of the victim mentality and the and the without using the language explicitly, a lot of the oppressor oppressed kind of dynamic going on there. I don't think that's really there. I think it has a whole lot more to do with a whole lot of the same psychology that gangs use in order
victim
to
ideology and the belonging to an in-group.
Yeah, belonging to an in-group after feeling like you're perceived as being slighted or not good enough on your own, and these people give you something of an identity, and
I think cancel culture
emulate those
leads
around
people
there.
to the fringes.
It can. I think for a large majority, it probably does. I think that's probably partially what happened to Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't even want to think about him. But yeah. Okay. So
Anyways, you said
I think
we're
Jordan
rejecting
Peter,
libertarianism, and
got
completely sidetracked on
You're
this.
good. I was like an ANCAP for a brief moment, and that was kind of fun. There were some really interesting ideas there, and I think I was really worthy of me to go through that phase, but I'm really happy I came out of it. And all this pointing back to if I'm going to be giving up YouTube full time, or like having to supplement income, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is the right decision, and that's something you should take to God. And then I had this like huge realization: I can't trust that if I start hearing things that it's from God. You know, like I can't actually trust that. So
you look up in the loft and the priest is like whispering things down at you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's freaking like I was gonna step into a church at all at this point.
Oh, fair enough. So you were not in a church when you're talking to God at this point.
No,
You're just doing prayers
No,
at
not
your
at-
house or something.
like barely,
Okay.
barely.
Okay.
Yeah, and like not form prayers. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I really need to start like taking a serious look at what religion I'm going to be, because I'm also been through a handful of relationships at this point, and I got the actually very good advice from Ben Shapiro that you should align on your religion with your wife, or at least your worldview.
I
You know, you should
definitely agree
align.
with that.
You should align super closely on that. And if I don't have a full understanding of what I am, how do I expect to align with someone else? So, and I'm sure as heck ain't gonna just yield to someone else because they believe something. That's for darn sure. That's
That would
again
go
goes back
against
to
your
the
entire personality and who you are.
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I embark on this journey. I start with orthodoxy, and I start going through the book the Orthodox way. And they start with God as mystery, which is like beautiful, and it's like taking me through all these things I had learned when I was younger, and it's like refreshing, and it's actually like really inspiring and super cool. And then we get to God as Trinity, and then of course we have to talk about the dreaded
Okay.
filioque, and here we are. And I'm like, okay, this is the Orthodox interpretation. I want to hear the other side of the argument and not just take them at face value. So I put that book down, and I went on this insane rabbit hole through not just, you know, Catholic, not just regular old Christian. I even gave the Protestants like half a chance just to hear what was up, and like understanding. I already knew my church history, or like I don't know, my European history well enough to know when they split off. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'll give it like half a shot to see what's going on, you know. And I mean, Jordan B. Cooper had a really good video on the Trinity, so like I'll give him that. But then I also like explored a bunch of other religions as well, you know, just to give them like an honest chance, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, you know, like all the major religions of
It's
the world.
funny you
And-
bring up Zoroastrianism. I've got a little story on that later if we have chance.
Oh,
If
cool.
we have time. If not, then don't worry about it. But go ahead.
And like I'm positive part of it was confirmation bias, but also just like something legitimately rung true about Catholicism, especially as opposed to Orthodoxy. And there was something drawing me to it, and I kept consuming a lot more content. And a big part of that was Pints with Aquinas, another huge part of that. And like I hadn't like told my parents how far along the trail I was, but they know that I was like exploring religion, and I had like all these questions for them and everything. Da 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 da. Another huge part of that was Father Chris Alar, which is
He's
like
pretty
not
cool.
not the normal answer anyone's gonna give, but I think he's amazing. I love him. He's so good.
I've listened to quite a few of his speeches actually,
Same.
or
Yeah.
homilies, or whatever he's putting on his channel. I've listened to some of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the Saturday live stream guys that he does.
I was super excited to see him on Pints recently.
It was so good.
shout
It
out
made
to
me
him.
so stoked, dude.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Been lobbying for him for a while. It's
He's
so
a
good.
He's a good priest. I really like him.
Yes, he's a very good priest. Yeah. So I was going through all of that, and then the final kicker for me is gonna be like, it's gonna be so stereotypical and gay, but the final kicker for me to get me back to the confessional, because at this point I was like pretty close to settled, but I was gonna give it a little time just to be like, you know, you don't want to just jump into anything.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Michael Knowles episode with our local exorcist here, Father Dan Rehill. And
Also a very cool priest.
badass priest.
Yeah.
Awesome priest. Yeah. Saw that, and he's talking about the thing that I'm like, but is this really real? You know, like, is this really real? Like, okay, we can talk about it, and it's cute, but like, come on. And he was like, no, it's like super incredibly real. Like, I saw women climbing on walls in front of like 200 people. You know, I'm just like, okay, so thankfully I have a history of being a cradle Catholic and getting to have actually close relationships with a number of different priests growing up. And these are men with really serious integrity. They take that extremely strongly. They're not just going to run around telling tales out. I mean, you got your bullshit priests out there who might do that.
Sure.
But every exorcist ever just happens to be a bullshit priest.
Unlikely.
So, yeah, very unlikely, especially when you hear how they have to have like a more rigorous spiritual life than like everyone else, you know? So at that point, I'm like, this guy is either lying or he's delusional or he's actually telling the truth. You know, the typical questions you ask with the resurrection. And I was like, I can't picture him actually lying. Like, I know what a good priest sounds like, and I know what a bullshit priest sounds like, and he does not sound like a bullshit priest. He seems like one of the good, solid priests that I knew growing up. And, like, if he's saying this is real, that means I'm in a shitload of trouble right now. I need to get to confession.
Go see him.
Yeah. Well, I don't have to see him, but, like, I need to get to confession. And that was, like, one of the best things in that video that he said is, like, one confession is worth 1,000 exorcisms. And I'm just like, I need to go to confession. I need to go.
Yeah.
I need to go. I'm already confirmed. I know all like the rules and all that stuff. Like, I'm already confirmed. I just need to go back and I can receive the Eucharist. And it was Saturday night. It was Saturday night, and I was watching this video, and I sent an email to my mom and my dad, and like, I'm going back to confession for the first time in 10 years, or probably more than that. And I'm gonna go to mass tomorrow, because like I'd found like I'm gonna go to this Byzantine church because I'm not quite ready for Rome yet, and and like nearby the Byzantine church was a church that had confession at 7 before mass starts. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do this. Thank you. I was like going, thank you, Lord, thank you. You know, I was like so stoked. So yeah, like that was like I remember that part of the journey very like vividly, like it was yesterday. And my reconversion day was actually August 15th. It's the feast day of the Assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And Blessed Mother has let me know multiple times very early on that she has her finger on me. and also the parish that I attend, that is my TLM parish that I've been attending for over the year, is the parish of the Assumption.
Well, it all works out then, huh?
It's been working out like I don't even have to try, other than just showing up and submitting. Again, a dirty word to libertarians and liberals in general, but submission is one of the greatest things you could possibly do, as long as you're submitting to the right person.
Yeah.
Like truly and honestly, it's so good. I am not Byzantine, Mr. Lepanto. Thank you for asking. I went a few times to Divine Liturgy. Very beautiful. I didn't feel at home.
When you say Byzantine, you're talking Byzantine Catholic. Byzantine.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. No, like I said, I was not into the I even went to 2 divine liturgies with my friend who is Orthodox and also libertarian. Surprise, surprise. No popes for the libertarians, I guess. But yeah, I went with him, and it was pretty, and it was all very familiar because my sister was Byzantine, and or is Byzantine. She still attends Byzantine, and you know, so like I was like familiar with all this stuff. It was really pretty. It reminded me of a bunch of things, but like it never fully pulled me. So,
but to be fair, if you are Latin Rite and you choose to switch to Byzantine, you have to go through a whole process for that.
What do you mean?
You're supposed to get permission from. So if you're baptized in Latin Rite and you want to switch to one of the other rites of the Catholic Church, you have to get permission from your bishop. And then you have to get permission from the bishop for the rite you're switching to, if I remember correctly.
Because they are under like a different like patriarchate and all that.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense. Okay, I had literally no idea. So
yeah, it is kind of. I did look into it at one point because I was just curious, because we have so many different rites in my area.
Dude, like, same. Which area are you in?
Southeast Michigan.
Oh, sick! Awesome. Yeah.
So there's tons of Eastern rites. We got the full blown like Chaldean population up in Dearborn where I went to college.
Nice.
It's just an absolute ton of different things. Like for example, I think, well, I'm not going to give away locations, but I'm not too far away from for some other people who debate the Orthodox quite a bit, and they're Syriac or Chaldean or both. I think technically both, because Chaldean and Syriac are two sides of the same coin. I might be getting this wrong. So,
They're really close. They're really
right,
close.
right. So,
Like
in fact,
Oh, God, sorry.
one of my previous coworkers, his brother is a Chaldean priest, so that's pretty neat. Not gonna say where, or don't want to get anybody doxxed, obviously, but it's really cool because I heard a lot of stories about what it's like being a Chaldean priest and going around the world. He was in New Zealand for a little while, of
I'm
all
sorry.
places. I know, it's like okay, but he's back home. He's in wherever he's from, and
That's good.
he's doing great things as a priest for the Chaldean Catholic Church. So
Nice.
anyway, where are we at? Oh, the Byzantine thing. So you're not Byzantine. You're back in the church. You went to confession.
Yes.
Is there any other parts of this story that I've interrupted now?
No, you're good. I received the Eucharist for the first time in so long, and I'll be honest, I had a challenge believing, but I knew that I was supposed to believe, so I at least tried. And I think God is okay with that as long as you keep trying, and I think you'll grow in your faith, which I have, very much so. But I didn't fully get it, but I was like, I was at the point where the church says this, therefore true. You know what I mean? That level of submission, and I think that was good.
There's an intellectual submission that occurs, I think, before you have a full faith submission.
Totally, yeah. And I understand the secular argument against that completely.
Yeah.
Like it's still something that goes through my head. I get it. I totally get it. However, it's wrong. It's definitely wrong. But I think it was really good for me early on to have that, like, okay, you know what? Maybe these people making these absolutely insane claims about reality, maybe they know a lot more than I do. And I have to just let go and honestly, truly have faith in the church, even if I don't fully understand or fully have a concept of what I'm even believing. I have to trust. And that was a big thing, was trust. So that is something that has been like the foundation of my reconversion, that everything else has built off of, that I feel like so many other cradle Catholics don't really get if they haven't fallen away. And maybe they build it later. Maybe that's the case. But like, it's like taking all of your faith for granted as just like this neat thing, this cute thing that we do. God is an interesting idea, like, but then like the moment you get challenged on it, are you really defending the fact that you really believe this to the point where you submit your will? Or are you believing this because you have all of these cognitive dissonances of how you've always lived your life?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I spent a lot of time not living my life that way. So, like, having this actual foundation of surrender, it is the foundation of my spiritual life, and I would argue should be the foundation of every Christian's life, is surrender. It has to be, fundamentally. First commandment, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. And that is an implied submission.
Absolutely. A lot of what you're saying is so familiar to me. I think it's so cool hearing other people have similar reversion stories to what I went through, because it is reaffirming. Like, I don't want to I don't want to like take it too much into that, but I understand exactly what you're saying. I went through a very similar journey, and I can hear everything you're saying echo a lot of things that happened to me, and I
want to give you a hug. This is good. It's good stuff.
I completely get it. So I think the reversion thing, like, I know everybody talks about, the strength of converts, right? Like, because cradle Catholics, a lot of us don't get.
Or was it G.K. Chesterton or C.S. Lewis? God save me from the convert.
Yeah.
It's an amazing quote.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like, I almost feel like reversion is almost as or more powerful than the convert story, because you left and you chose to come back. You had the truth. As long as you believe the Catholic faith is the truth, you had the truth. You left. You left the truth, and you spent however long away, and you come back, and it really is different when you come back. Everything
It's
is different.
completely different. It's like I'm seeing life in a more real way than I ever have ever. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Like so many questions I had philosophically that were like kind of stuck in the mud of the ambiguity of what's actually true or not got solved when you assent to the fact that, okay, this is a philosophy that has the answers, and it's not going to be able to be empirically proven, which was like one of my issues with not wanting to get back to it in the first place. But if you're actually being honest about the nature of reality, not everything that's true is going to be empirically proven. Or,
Right.
for that matter, needs to be empirically proven. It doesn't
I would
have
agree.
to be. That is making science an idol. Or more accurately, empiricism an idol. And once you
think
get
actually,
over that...
I think that's one of the reasons why science is so obsessed with where everything came from, because if they could disprove God
Then they
somehow,
dominate. Well, they don't even dominate religion. They specifically want to dominate Christianity.
exactly, they want to be able to prove that they're right and they don't need religion.
Yeah.
Because like for me, it's like, look, younger cool, younger Christian is cool, whatever. You live it. I don't care as long as you foundationally believe everything came from God in some way, shape, or form, and you're not opposing the catechism.
Yeah. That's basically it. Like you,
So
the people that get
as
a
long as
little
I know the
extreme.
origin of life is God, everything else about that, however I interpret Genesis, as long as we can agree the foundation is God.
If
That's
you
where
if you
things came
start
from.
if you start like making claims like people who don't believe in the Genesis account as literal are heretics, I think you might be a little overboard on that myself. But yeah, I'm with you. Like it is literally not necessary for salvation, and that's why we're here. We're not here to understand why things were created. We're here to get to heaven.
Exactly, exactly. So like if we have a different understanding of literal versus metaphorical versus allegory, whatever you want Genesis to be, so long as we're not opposing the magisterium, the catechism, etc., 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 I'm okay with that as long as we all believe that God is where life came from. That's the foundation. If
Yeah,
you don't have that
absolutely.
foundation, we have a lot to disagree on. So that's where I'm at. Like science should be used in a way that is what's edifying towards our religion
It's
with respect
supplement.
to it.
It's
Yeah.
supplemental. It's a tool. It's not the ends unto itself. It
But science
like
has become a religion.
I haven't been able to convince my friend who is a reductive materialist. I haven't been able to convince him yet that the science is his religion. He doesn't it's like, no, I
It
have no
is.
religion because blah blah blah. Because the only faith I have is in things that can be absolutely proven, and you have faith in things that can't be proven. That's the
Yeah.
definition of religion. I'm like, no, that's not the definition of religion. And not only that, you do have faith in things that haven't been proven yet because you have told me that you believe things that are called supernatural or spiritual now will eventually be discovered to be natural phenomenon. That's definitionally faith in something that can't be proven.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitionally. That's religion, bro. That's freaking religion.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have to pee really bad. I want to continue
Yeah, we
this.
can take a quick pause.
Cool. Let's do a quick pause. I'll be like 2-3 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna pause your cam real quick then. And
Word.
I think I
Sounds
gotta hit
good.
the remove. Maybe I hit remove button.
I don't know. I
I'll
don't
mute.
use StreamYards.
I'll mute your mic at least so nobody heals or hears you.
Cool.
Whatever
Thank
you're
you.
doing. All right. So, quick little thing. We had a starred comment. Any suggestions on a duh? I'm not sure if I can help you on this one. Hmm. I gotta remember what the heck a DAW is. Oh my gosh. Is it digital audio something? Digital audio. Oh, workstation. Okay, digital audio workstation. Let's see. Oh, you're talking about like music production software. Jim, are you still here? Are you in the chat somewhere? Well, so I actually been recording and producing music for since 2006. I use a combination. I use a combination of a few different softwares. I really like Mixcraft a lot. That is a fantastic piece of software. I also like a software called Melodyne because it's like auto tune without all the nasty electronic clicks when your voice changes notes. And Melodyne is something that does get included a lot of times with your Mixcraft purchase. Some other people I know use Fruity Loops. Some people use GarageBand, which GarageBand is the default. If you have a Mac, GarageBand's your choice. But if you're looking for something a lot more professional, Mike might have a better answer. I'll definitely ask him when he gets back. Do you have any other questions about audio production specifically? I can at least get you started. Let's put it that way. And like I said, I've used Mixcraft for like 15 plus years at this point, so I can vouch it's great software. And if you even don't know like notes and stuff, it has a digital piano you can play around with as you're getting started. So, anyway, I would recommend looking into Mixcraft. I'll see if Mike uses a different software or not. We'll see what he says. All right, let's see. I think he's probably ready now. You ready?
Yeah. Good
Okay.
to go.
So he was asking about a digital audio workstation. The one that I specifically use, and I've been using it for like 15 plus years, is Mixcraft. I don't know if
I'm
you
not
recommend that or
familiar
not.
with it. I've
Okay.
heard the name, but I'm not familiar with it.
He wants to get into music, and I said, well, Mixcraft is a relatively inexpensive product, but it's a very, in my opinion, a pretty professional product. It can import MIDIs from any other software that you would use, and it can easily translate to whatever instrument. It also has a huge amount of instruments available right out the gate when you start using it. So, and a lot of software will plug right into it. Like if you have an auto-tune VST, it'll go right in there. It'll interface with Melodyne, which I really like Melodyne. You ever used that before?
I've tried, but the like Studio One is supposed to come with Melodyne, and it never works for me to
Okay.
actually load it. For whatever reason, the license I'm supposed to have isn't working. So, but I mean, I'm familiar with Melodyne. Yeah.
Melodyne's neat. I think that's actually what, if you wanted to do something like Imogen Heat, how do you pronounce her name? If you didn't want to have to buy that piano that changes her voice on the fly, Melodyne can do that like piece by piece. If you just want to put your
Yeah.
voice into like multiple chords, it's really powerful
Yeah.
software.
Melodyne's great for that.
I think I read that Owl City used it to make his voice higher than it actually is because it's more natural sounding than if you were to
Wait,
just
wait a
take.
second.
Go ahead.
You said Owl City. Let me double check here.
I'm pretty sure he did. I think he was the
Okay, it's
advertisement.
not. That's not who I thought it was. It was a different owl thing. I thought it was Owl City, but it's not Owl City.
Owl City is Fireflies, Vanilla Twilight. He was really famous, and they had Shaq in one of his music videos,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Literally Shaquille O'Neal. It's like, okay, that's interesting. Um, he did that weird song. It's always a good time with Carly Rae Jepsen back when. Anyway, Mixcraft is great. It's not too expensive. And if you just want to get your feet wet, it's very intuitive for somebody who's never used a digital audio workstation.
I couldn't tell you about intuitive DAWs. I really couldn't. I've only used non-intuitive ones, honestly. So
You can usually get a little more complicated with non-intuitive ones than say like Mixcraft, but one of the nicest things in Mixcraft, and maybe everything works this way, I really don't know, because I once I found the one I liked, I've used it ever since. You can
that's
step up or
usually what
step
people do.
down. You can step up or step down your scale very quickly and very easily with Mixcraft. So you could write everything in C, and you're like, but I want it in F sharp. and you could just step it up to F sharp or step it whatever the heck, and it does it very well. So anyway, again, I am not a professional. I've just been doing it for like 15 years.
Jessica B, I think that's one of my people. I think it is.
Probably.
I remember.
And by the way, if anything in this podcast, I think I told you this earlier, but maybe I didn't. I try to always make sure people know this. So if anything in this podcast, clip-wise, you want to steal and use, go ahead. It's your content.
I appreciate that, but nah. I'm getting way pickier about what I'm posting and when. Hey, Jessica. I'm getting way pickier about that because now that one of the best things about coming back to my faith was that I had to really consider what I'm posting and why on my channel, which was another kind of crisis as far as like what happens with my YouTube channel now that my values have to align with the church. And like, it's not just like, oh, I'm a Christian now, guys. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before, but I'm a Christian now, guys. You know, like, no, like I like really had to reconsider like
work that way, does it?
Yeah. Especially like we had that discussion. It might've been prior to the stream about like the parable of the talents, when the master gave the talents to these people. And I'm like, I definitely know for sure I was given more talents than what I'm using. For sure. Like, undeniably. So I have to really reconsider how I'm approaching my channel and why. And that eventually led me to the fact of, like, you know what? I'm not going to post on my channel unless it's something that I feel like needs to be said and I'm saying the right thing about it. And that's why you haven't seen me posting for a while, because I've been working really deeply. Not as much lately because I've been taken away doing YouTube consulting and editing and things like that for other channels. But I have been working deeply on this music objectivity manifesto, if you will. It's actually coming along great. I'm really, really stoked about it. That's kind of what I was telling you before, like when I came back to my faith, it filled in all these gaps philosophically that suddenly made so much more of philosophy in general just make more sense, make way more sense. When you know the fundamental answer, then you suddenly have a foundation from which to build. And as long as all of the pieces are supporting one another and they're there in concrete and won't be knocked down, like intellectually destroyed, you know what I mean? As long as that's in place, you can build a lot of really cool stuff. You can build a lot of really cool stuff. And it's helped me understand music on such a way more interesting and good level than I had prior. And I'm really excited to share that with people. I'm so excited to share that with people, man. Actually, that might even be a good segue for talking about liturgical music, if that's something you still want to talk
I was
about.
actually thinking the same thing. So we are on the same wavelength and page right now. All right. So fundamentally, I think we can agree that music in the church changed culturally, liturgically after Vatican II. Would you agree with that?
Undeniably.
And
Starkly.
And it's kind of stuck in the Vatican II era with 70s sounding more folksy music.
I wouldn't say that it's stuck so much as it's resistant to change.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of churches that aren't fully stuck there, but they still have carryovers of that crap, especially at the most important part of the Mass, which is communion.
Yes.
That is the part that it is the most soaked in. It's got its hooks in. Because this is the part where we got to feel good about it, guys. This is a really deep moment, guys. Don't you want to feel love with Jesus? Yes. Yes, I do. And you know what? I don't need music to do that. You don't need music to do that. But we got to plaster this sing-songy, like, let's make sure, like, Belle and the Beast get their frickin' dance number together during the Eucharistic communion. Yeah, that's real appropriate, people. Thank you.
My favorite thing is when you're hearing the song on your way to communion, and maybe I'm like the only person. I doubt I'm the only person that does this, but I know I'm like one of the few people I know that does it. I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm hoping I don't hear anything heretical in there.
Holy crap! Okay,
That's generally.
okay, like, I'm not a lyrics guy, so like that's the last thing that I pay attention to. I'm more thinking to myself, music was the reason I started attending the traditional Latin Mass. It was specifically music, because I didn't want to go to Mass and wonder if, and have not wonder, and worry that the music that was playing there was actually offensive to God.
Yeah.
You know, like at that point, are you there to serve the emotions of the people that are there, or are we there to do what the Mass is supposed to be, which is the sacrifice of God to God? That
Yeah.
And we are graced and blessed enough to take part in that. That was a mercy and a condescension for us, and we're treating it as though it's a freaking kumbaya campfire session.
That drives me nuts.
Beyond drives me nuts. That's sacrilegious.
Yes.
If you're like internally treating it that way. Now,
Or
like
at the very least, even if you were to say it's valid, it's not reverent. That is a fact.
yeah, and look, I would say the vast majority of Novus Ordo masses are inferior to traditional Latin masses, and that's not because the
Valid
tradition.
and reverent are two different things.
Yeah, and also valid and better or worse than are two different things as well.
Yeah.
But we're getting slightly off track.
Yes, but liturgical music. Yeah.
Yeah, my point being, I care a lot about music,
Same.
and separately, I care a lot about my religion and liturgy and God. And when those two things start intersecting, I'm not an expert on liturgy, but I know enough about what's going on here to know what the mood should be, or I
And
should
if
say
the mood doesn't
where
match, it's jarring.
I should actually be more specific. Where the focus should be. That's really the biggest thing. You know, no one's throwing on their favorite Gregorian chant intonement for a party, and there's a good reason for that, because it's not something that draws your attention to the music. It pulls your attention towards the transcendent, and you know, I would guarantee, I'd place bets that at a party drinking with ladies, you are going to throw on, and he'll lift you up on eagle's wings before you're going to throw on the Salve Regina. Like, I'm just tossing it out there.
You might be surprised. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, if we're hanging out with the freaking rad trad crowds, you know, sure, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a thing. But like, to your average normal person, it's because the music that is being used in a lot of the post-Vatican II era stuff, which is all, I shouldn't say all, a whole lot of it is not composed by Catholics, is very much drawing your attention towards the music and how the music makes you feel.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that when these songs were being written, composed, and ready for liturgy, the thought process was, we want people to feel good going to Catholic Mass.
We want people to feel emotional about Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what they... And there's nothing inherently wrong about that, but it's not appropriate during liturgy, in my humble opinion. Now, I will say, yesterday, I went to the Novus Ordo parish that actually convinced me to go to the TLM parish after attending it. And they had basically a reverent praise and worship song for Eucharistic communion, and they've been like testing this out for a while. He's a local guy, and it's Nashville, so like they're like, oh, singer-songwriter, listen to his original music, it's so nice. I'm just like, look, it's not right to start shilling some guy's original music at liturgy. It's not. That's not. But I will say, I've heard way worse songs during communion.
And in your hymnal.
Yeah, in the hymnal. Yeah,
in the
yeah.
hymnal.
Like, I don't think it was particularly appropriate myself, but I've heard a lot worse. And mood wise, as far as communing with the Lord, as this being the wedding procession for the Feast of the Lamb, I've heard so much worse.
Yeah,
I would still say, in my opinion, that a good Gregorian setting would be like the way to go.
absolutely.
But it was actually a good reminder of like, okay, you know what? Trying to evaluate this objectively, it's not what I would do, and there's probably a way to tone it back a little more than what they are doing,
Yeah.
because every one of these songs has to have a chorus that you sing along to. That's probably one of the biggest problems with it. But yeah, like, tone it back a bit, tone it back just a bit, and I think this might be okay. Like, honestly, it might be okay.
I think the thing that gets me is
Go for
a
it.
lot of men do not care for active participation at Mass. Some do, but not all do.
I think that they do. I just don't think they
don't.
care to actively participate with the Novus Ordo music choices.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So, like, when you're asking for active participation in Novus Ordo, and all of the songs are written in a vocal range geared for women, the men are not going to find themselves very naturally.
Which is also funny, because many of the people who write that music are men.
They are, yeah. Kind of weird.
I think the bigger issue isn't as much the vocal range, although that is a thing.
It
I
is
think
a
the
thing.
bigger I think the bigger issue is the fact that it all sounds like it was written for a really shitty 70s musical.
It does. It does. It really does. Like, I could totally see at the end of a 70s musical them singing On Eagle's Wings. It could totally happen.
Absolutely. And for the record, I think On Eagle's Wings is an extremely well-written song. Like, objectively so. It's a really well-written song. As much as people want to talk crap on it, it's like talking crap on Nickelback. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of things to shit on. But also, there's objectively excellent things here, which is why people pay shitloads of money to go see them and buy the records. You know? Like, there's something good there. I just don't know if it's the best choice, again, for liturgy. I don't know if it's the best choice.
Well, I mean, we already have 150 songs composed by David in our Bibles. And
Yeah,
those have been translated
issue,
into Gregorian chants. And
the issue, I'm gonna say the issue being we don't actually have the music; we just have the text.
that is true. That is true. But we have the Latin Gregorian chants forever.
What I would give to hear the originals of those. What I would give.
Absolutely. And actually, what was pointed out to me, and I had never, maybe this is something that's obvious to other people, but when I had my guest on last week, in Vince Catholicism, he does like book reviews and stuff. I don't know if you've ever watched him or not, but
I've not.
great content if you're looking to find prayer books, etc., etc. The Psalms are all of church history wrapped up in one person's writings. If you go through all of the Psalms,
Well, we don't 100% know if it's one guy, but we can suspect.
okay, sorry. The book of Psalms predates Jesus, right?
Yes.
But it also doesn't, because Jesus outside of time, all that Trinity, all the stuff that's very confusing.
You might say it's eternal.
Exactly. Anyway,
Eternal.
the eternal word, not the television network. Anyway, but the Psalms do literally compass before and after, like the Old Covenant, everything is there in the Psalms. If you look at how you apply it to each thing that happens, it's wild. It's all of church history just in the Psalms. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, honestly.
And so those are obviously geared for the Mass, like just flat out, they are.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that's why, like, because of my growing up with my lay Carmelite folks who have to, like, they are mandated by their community to say the Liturgy of the Hours, morning prayer and evening prayer. That was like my first exposure to, like, oh, like, okay, this is like all Psalms. The Novus Ordo one throws in some other stuff in there as well, not just Psalms, but
Yeah.
like prior to Novus Ordo times, it was all Psalms. And it's really powerful it's a really powerful testament to how important they are, that they have such emphasis placed upon them for the longest time in the church, and that like, it belies what you're saying about all of church history being in there.
Praying the Psalms is what bridges the prayer of the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. It is consistently prayed across the board.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even just practically, as far as like consistently prayed across the board, but also just the fact that like there's actually messianic prophecy built into those.
Yeah, like Psalm 22, I think, is the one that has the
dude.
holes in the hands.
I got to edit Joe's video for that one, dude. Heck yeah.
Psalm 22. That's right. He did do that one. Yeah.
Psalm 20. Dude, don't get Joe started on Psalm 22. Okay. Joe will not stop about Psalm 22.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Actually, it's one of the reasons why I struggle to use newer Bible translations, is because any edits to the Psalms, like for example, in the Masoretic text, and I'm sure this does, like in the Catholic editions, we probably put it back to the right way, but in the Masoretic texts that are used for like the King James and whatnot, it actually says, "They come at me like a lion," instead of, the hands and the holes and stuff. It makes no sense. And Joe talked about it in his video, but I had heard that explanation forever before that, because I've talked to a few priests about it.
Oh no. Okay, so those are. I think you might have mixed a few things up. So
I might have. Yeah.
There is an actual line in Psalm 22 where they says
no.
essentially
The Masoretic switched the text to remove the holes in the hands. They tear at me.
No, hold on.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
There actually is a portion of Psalm 22 that's not disputed. That is, they come at me like a lion.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
But then there is another portion that a bunch of Jews. This is not being mean to Jews. I love Jews, but like a bunch of Jews do not want to be the prophesying of the crucifixion of Jesus.
Absolutely, they don't want to, or else they wouldn't be Jews.
If you actually look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's really difficult to tell what that character is. And like you saw Joe's video about it. I
did, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So
it added more context to the discussion for me that I didn't have before.
I mean, yeah, if you want more context to the discussion that you never had before, seek out Joe. That's all I will say. He has tons of context that he wants to share.
If he wants to spend 2 hours with me on Psalm 22, tell him to reach out. I would happily talk to him about Psalm 22 for 2
I will
hours.
supply the whiskey. I'll ship it to both of you guys. Freaking A. Find a way to split a fifth.
But it's funny you say that. Like, so the official prayer of the church was unchanged. We had the Latin Vulgate. We had, and say what you want about the Latin Vulgate, but it was the official scripture of the church for like a long time. And that's where you get all the church fathers talking about she shall crush the head of the serpent in relation to Mary. You get the Psalm 22 commentary. All the various commentaries of the church come from this, tradition in scripture that we have with the Catholic Church, that the Protestants 1,500 years later want to just throw out the door.
Well, what do you mean by they want to throw out the door?
They want to do it's the critical text aspect, right? They want to go after it with different. It's like throw out tradition because we have this new commentary based on like the Dead Sea Scrolls and this, and it's like, okay, but the Dead Sea Scrolls come from a different sect of Judaism. They come from the Essenes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so while they may share scriptures and ideas, that's a totally different group of Jews than the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and they lived a different way. And then you have the Masoretic text, which was it was the canonical scripture of the Jews 800 years after Jesus had been on the earth. So now we're also talking about, well, why would they want to keep things?
We're talking about Jews who knew that Jesus existed and what
exactly
he claimed, or who he claimed to be. Yeah.
Right.
So there may be a bias there.
Yeah, and that's where you get it was like instead of a virgin in Isaiah, you get a young maiden or like a young woman or a young girl.
Yeah.
These are the kind so they I mean, it makes sense to me that if you don't believe these prophecies were true with Jesus, you would say, okay, let's critically look at these texts that prove him.
Yeah.
And, okay, should these
Absolutely.
be different? And so like when the Masoretic is handed to the writers of the King James Bible, now you've got a whole different tradition from Protestants resolving around the matter, resolving matters with the Masoretic text because they don't have access to what Jerome had access to when he wrote down the original Latin Vulgate.
The Vulgate, yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
it's
So like when you throw
honestly
out,
like based. I don't know a ton about translations on the Bible, but based upon what I do know, I feel like the happy middle ground is using the best from the KJV and the Vulgate because the Vulgate also had its own issues, or has its own issues, I should say. Speaking as a person who does go to the TLM and has to bear through the Douay-Rheims.
I
That
like
thing is
the
not.
Douay-Rheims personally,
That thing
but
is so unpleasant to listen to for me. I'm sorry. I'm an
I
American in the
so
21st century.
is the
What is this? Dost
Douay-Rheims
thou, thy? Get shit out of here. No one speaks like this. No one back in Jesus' time was saying thou.
do
Okay,
you know
not a
which
single person.
there's a version of the Bible you should pick up then. It's the happy middle ground that you're looking for. Have
What's
you
it
ever
called?
heard of the Confraternity of Christian Doctrine Bible?
I have not. I'm not at all.
So in the 1940s, I believe the New Testament. They only finished the New Testament, but it's the best, in my opinion, the best English version of the New Testament that exists. They were told to work on a new version of the New Testament based on a combination of the Latin Vulgate, the Douay-Rheims, and modern English. And they did it, and it was it's edifying to read that version of the New Testament because
Word.
it's
Okay.
like
Would you say it's better for study or better for regular reading?
probably both. It's got good footnotes. In fact,
Okay.
it was like the transition Bible of the church between the Douay-Rheims and the New American Bible.
Oh.
But what I mean by that is, so
I'm sorry. You just said like the magic word of just like. Ugh.
here's what happened. So midway through, so when they were doing the translation, the Confraternity Christian Doctrine group was told use the Vulgate and the Douay-Rheims and make it more modern, so that people can read it without like, leave some of the regal language when you're talking like the Our Father, that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
but
Yeah.
try
Absolutely.
try to make it sound like something that is readable for a modern audience in the 1940s.
Which is a good thing in my humble opinion.
I don't disagree. I wish they would have finished the project. So basically what happened is you have a new pope comes in and then
What happens
basically
is
throws it out.
modernists. That's what happens. Modernists.
he throws it out after they finish the New Testament, and they got through most of the Old Testament, but they never quite finished it. And then they threw out all of what they were doing and did the New American Bible.
It sounds like the perfect Bible for me because I've also gotten mostly through the Old Testament and never finished it. So I mean, it's perfect.
So the closest you can get to a full, complete translation in the Confraternity Christian Doctrine version, I think, is somewhere in the 1950s or maybe early 60s. The last version they put out was like 1969, and it's basically just the New American Bible.
Can you link that to me after we're done?
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Thank you.
What's funny is I accidentally happened into this Bible in my early teens. So I have one, and I really like it. But there are publishers that are still putting out the New Testament because that was complete. So I would recommend reading the New Testament in that version.
Awesome. I'd love to. I absolutely love to.
And the only other version that exists that predates the critical text Catholic Bibles like the New American is the Knox translation. Have you
Yes,
of
I've heard very
Okay.
good things about the Knox, and I was so sad when that could have been our church's new translation, and instead we got the New American Bible.
It briefly was an official translation in the Americas. What happened was they had started to put it into the Liturgy of the Hours at the time, the Divine Office, and it was the filler for all of the parts that weren't the Psalms from the Pius XII changes, which that's a whole nother ball game I don't want to get into right now because it's a super long conversation. But basically, it was starting to leach in, and your Catholic publishers in the United States could not license it because it was a European-owned translation. And so you end up getting the ICEL involved, and they create the Liturgy of the Hours as we know it today. and they own the copyright, they own the translation, so they basically are a one-stop shop for all of that now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, but yeah, Knox was starting to bleed into.
Don't get me started on those freaking ISIL.
Yeah,
That's
that's
They should
another.
be ashamed. They should be ashamed of themselves.
I understand why the copyright started, because like if you don't own
Yes,
your scriptures,
I'm not upset about the copyright doing the
Yeah.
thing that copyright does. I'm more upset with the fact of the people who take advantage of it and want to inject their
that
own.
is exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So wait, liturgical music here. So let's talk.
sorry.
Let's talk about the nature of music. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So there's a few different elements of sound, and the most base way that humans recognize sound is in three different categories due to our natures, due to our instincts. You have speech, noise, and music. And there's crossovers across the spectrum, but those are the three different categories through which we perceive sound. There's no other categories, period. So, when we talk about music, music sometimes has a lot of speech or no speech. Music sometimes has a lot of noise or no noise at all. And I would say that a whole lot of the things that people call playing with feel, or like, oh, like I like my music with a whole lot of imperfections, that's actually injecting more noise into that balance instead of being truly musical order that we perceive, as opposed to the order of speech or the order of music or the lack of order that is noise. So
Where does a distorted guitar fit into that thought process?
we're on liturgical music. I'm going to get back to that.
All right, go ahead.
So within music, generally speaking, if you inject more of the imperfections and more of the noise into it, you get closer to the carnal side of another spectrum within music. You have the carnal, which is like the highly emotional, experiential, stimulus-driven, versus the
Sure.
transcendental, which is touching strongly on existential meaning, for lack of a better term. And Gregorian chant, along with a lot of other chants and other religious traditions throughout history, touched upon the transcendental. And I think that's kind of the origin of why music came around, especially if you look into the evolution of the voice and then how that split off into the evolution of speech and music. I won't get into all of that right now. But the idea being that the musical portion was defined by how it is being transcendental. Even the very carnal music has to have some element of the transcendental within it in order for it to be identified as music, even if it's heavily carnal. So when we're talking about chants, and especially when we're talking about Gregorian chant or Eastern chant, that stuff is very transcendental, pointing you towards the abstract. I'm not even going to use the word God. I'll use the word abstract. Things that are outside of your physical body, outside of your physical stimulus.
And it helps you to focus.
Well, I mean, I would say both of them actually do help you to focus. It just depends upon what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
So this takes you out. This takes you outside of where you are. Now, if we come back to more modern flavors of music, this is coming out of a tradition that started at the end of the Baroque period and really solidified itself in the classical period with the Enlightenment era, that is focused on emoting, that is trying to accurately communicate emotions and have self-expression, very focused on self-expression. And this puts a lot more focus on the music itself, but more specifically, how you feel about the music, and building a connection between artist and audience in that regard, as opposed to being a conduit towards driving us out towards the abstract. So this is not inherently bad. But if you make it the prime thing that people focus on, I would say that that's an error myself. And
Emotion
that is where
in music makes you go almost inward with like self introspection, whereas I feel like what you're saying is like the Gregorian chant, that kind of music makes you focus outward into the abstract. Is that accurate?
I don't think that's the perfect wording for it, and I
Maybe
haven't
not.
come up with the perfect wording for it myself, but that's generally around accurate, I would say. So the point I'm driving at is the post-Vatican II music is heavily drenched with post-classical era theory and philosophy on how to write music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And because of that, it is heavily focused on paying attention to the music.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, you also have this I shouldn't say postmodern, but like this 20th century idea of like, let's all sing a pop song together. You know,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
never gonna call it a pop song, but they're friggin' pop songs. They're pop songs drenched with a little bit of the 18th century hymn style writing.
You don't
every so
think if
often.
somebody busted out just a small town girl, everybody wouldn't start singing along at church? You don't think so?
I think many people would walk out, actually.
Well, that's probably a good thing, but
Yes, I do
that's a good
agree.
thing. I'm just saying, like, there's an aspect to that I agree with. Like, there's this like, let's all sing along and enjoy the music, but it's like, but is that really why we're here? Is that
It's the difference between having a communal experience that you don't necessarily have to emotionally identify, so much
Yeah.
as we're having a communal experience, all deciding to have the same level of submission at the same time. Whereas the post-Vatican II music is focused more on us looking at each other, feeling good about each other. If you want to know like the most boiled down quintessential error of the Novus Ordo, it is where they place the kiss of peace. It's not the fact that they reintroduced it, and yes, they did reintroduce it because it was a part
Yeah,
of some of the oldest rubrics of the liturgy.
I had
I'm
a
aware of that.
discussion with this with some other people, actually. It's funny you bring that up.
But it's where they placed it.
Yep.
0 liturgies throughout all of history until after Vatican II had it after the consecration. You want to know why? Because they believed that the Eucharist was Jesus. That's freaking why. And they didn't need to look at each other feeling how good about they were about the fact that they were going to go eat some bread right now. They didn't need to feel that way about it because they knew what was actually important in front of them. And I would argue it is actually sinful to take your focus off of Jesus and look at each other and talk about how great we are right now. That's actually bad. I do not partake in that, and I will not partake in that. I'm not mandated to partake in that either.
No, nobody is. Absolutely. I understand the thought process behind it, though. It's like you need to be right with... You can't go up to receive the Eucharist and have some kind of grudge. And that was the thought process of it originally.
Oh, no, I'm not having any kind of grudge.
No. What I mean is, if you had something to settle amongst your family and friends, the intention of the Kiss of Peace was to do that.
Is it?
Originally. Yes.
Is it? Okay.
That was the intention. It was like your last chance.
Guess where they had it? Before the
It was towards
profession of
into
faith.
Right. It was earlier in the Mass. Yeah.
Because you had the portion of the portion of the divine liturgy that was for everyone, and then you had the portion that was just for the faithful.
That's what I mean. Is I'm not talking about the placement. The placement is terrible. I'm saying
Okay.
that the original intention
Yeah,
of that.
I don't have an issue with the actual act itself. at all.
Yeah, exactly. I don't either. But I do think it is super jarring and somewhat disrespectful the way it's handled in the Mass.
It's just the placement.
Yep.
It's just the placement.
That's what I mean
it's-
when I say it's the way it's handled in the Novus Ordo.
Yeah. It's a degradation. It is absolutely a degradation. I will stand firmly on that. It is so disappointing. It is
The
so
other thing that
incredibly
bothers me
disappointing.
is I can't stand when some elderly person in my row is like, "Let's hold hands during the Our Father," and I'm like, "Please don't
Not
touch
gonna
me.
happen. Not gonna
Please don't
happen.
touch me."
My eyes are closed. My hands are folded. My hands are
I
folded
always do one
for
of these,
the
my hands are
vast.
together.
My my hands are folded for the vast majority of mass.
Yep.
It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way because that is the proper prayer position that we are supposed to take.
Unfortunately, with having the 5 kids at mass, I can't really
Yeah,
do
okay, that
that.
that is fair. When I finally do have kids, that will also be a different circumstance for me. I'm sure. I'm
Now,
positive
when I
about it.
have gone to mass by myself, occasionally when kids are sick or different things have come up, I oh yeah, here we
Oh,
go.
hold on. Haley Haley brought up the real. Yeah, yeah. I
You
don't
talking about
understand
is
it.
it the with your spirit thing? Is it with the hands out? You're
Okay,
not supposed to do.
to
I
be
can't do it.
fair, most of them do this. The proper adorons is this.
Yeah,
And like when the people do the Our Father, they'll do this. It's not exactly the same as but also it's fair to call it out in my humble opinion.
it's not. You shouldn't do that. Period. That's what the priest is reserved for the priests and the
Hell
deacons.
nah, you should not do it. Gosh.
Hey,
People
by the way, the best 1962 missile I've ever found, if you're looking for one that's really good,
I got the
the
fatherless
Fulton
on, so I'm good.
the Fulton Sheen missile is better.
Okay. We use a pre 1955 missile at my
Are
parish, so
you FSSP or ICKSP?
we are diocesan actually.
And you're doing a pre 55?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you
I
guys.
hey, I don't know other than the fact that I know that's what we're doing. I'm just like, oh, we're dialed sick, so
Well,
cool.
the
Like
only
we
the
have a
only
letter, we have a letter
real
from our bishop and everything. It's great.
the only real difference that you'll notice, because most people wouldn't notice, but the only real difference you'll notice in the pre 55 is usually Holy Week and a couple little things at the mass.
Yeah, and look, I don't particularly care that much myself. I'm not a hardliner about this. And honestly, if the Novus Ordo was much closer to just the English translation of the TLM,
The
I'd
serum
be
rite.
I'd be amazingly happy. So happy. I mean, as far as I understand it, the Ordinariate is something like that. Not the same, but something
The
like that.
ordinariate is the modified serum rite post Cranmer, post changes to the church. So it's close, but not quite. The
Gotcha.
biggest thing that we lost from the Protestant Reformation was the serum rite. The serum rite was an English version of the Latin Mass that existed in English-speaking countries. When King Henry VIII decided to divorce his wife and the church at the same time, we lost the serum rite pretty much altogether. I mean, there's still some churches I think that celebrate it in the world, but it's very few. We still have all the proper ways to say it too, because I mean, 500 years ago, those books still exist. It's not that far away. You could easily bring it back if you had a pope that wanted to. But when the entire English church breaks away at once from the king, the Catholic Church is like, we don't really need that English liturgy anymore. All the English speaking people are under the we'll just do our in Latin because that's what we want to anyways.
Yeah.
uh,
And okay, so I think there is something beautiful and good about doing it in Latin. I'm definitely not like
I'm a bit of a Latin supremacist personally, but I would go to a serum rite if it existed, if it did
in the argument in favor of why people like even prior to Vatican II wanted to drive more participation in the mass and understanding of what's going on, because I forget who, I want to say it was Pius X or Pius XII. One of the Piuses was talking about how I've heard the guy from the Word on Fire talk about this, how like a lot of the Catholics were actually kind of pagan during that time, where they just kind of showed up because it was the thing they were supposed to do, not because
Mhm.
they were actually believing and not that they were even fully participating. And man, if you're not actually believing and understanding what's going on, it's really easy to check out during a TLM. It's super easy to check out during a TLM. Like, you have to try. You have to actually try and stay focused, because a whole lot of it has nothing to do with you, which is also part of what makes it beautiful, in my opinion. However, in the idea of trying to get people more engaged and bring it back into the native languages of everyone involved, I think there is something good there. And I also think there's something good and beautiful about the Latin as well. So
I think something was lost in the movement, though, to get your, what is it, I'm missing the word right now entirely. Oh gosh, what the heck? When you're trying to translate it into all these different languages, something of value is lost, because there's only so many different words in each different language to describe the same thing. And eventually something will be lost.
Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm replying to Haley really fast. I'll just reply to her own speech. Okay, she's talking about the vigil being at noon. We still do that for Easter, but we also say it doesn't count towards the Sunday obligation.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we do, like, our Easter vigil begins at 10 a.m.
And that's because the fast couldn't be broken until the Easter vigil, so they kept moving it earlier and earlier and earlier. I'm no joke. That's why.
Like good Italians, you know, gotta eat. Bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once because they would start on Thursday night, right? And so now you're waiting all the way until whenever Mass happens on Saturday. So you're talking like 40 plus hours.
And I must be a real boss, because I started mine Wednesday night. All right.
Well, I just think take this how you will. But I think if you don't eat on Thursday, it seems weird, because that's when the Last Supper occurs.
Sure. I mean, like, I didn't go to Mass that day because I was actually working.
Okay.
But if I wasn't working as I had planned to originally do, don't get me started, then I was planning on going to Mass that day, and I would have received the Eucharist for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from Wednesday evening until Saturday evening was my first time ever fasting, like, liquid that long.
Yeah.
Ever. And it was my first Triduum doing that. It was a really tough Passion Week, Holy
It's
Week,
hard.
and Triduum. It was legit tough. And I had to sing Scola on Friday for my Novus Ordo parish, actually. I have multiple citizenships, so I have.
Hey, I'm like 80-20 or 90-10, just because. So my kids go to one of the Catholic schools in the area that I live in.
I'm sorry.
It happens to be a Novus Ordo parish. It's not a sorry thing. It's a good school. It's far better than the public schools, that's for sure.
That's good.
Not even close. And the priest in charge is a TLM priest, but he's a moderator over multiple parishes. So don't get me started. Church politics stuff. Anyways.
Jeez.
But 90% of what I
priest.
attend is Novus Ordo, and probably about 10% is the Latin Mass. But I am somebody who loves the Latin Mass personally.
Yeah, same. Absolutely same. Like, even if we find something that works more practically for most of the Catholic faithful on earth, I think we should maintain the traditional Latin Mass.
Well, isn't it literally written in Summorum Pontificum, what was once holy is always holy, or something to that effect? Like, how could you possibly say the Latin Mass is no longer allowed? Makes no sense.
Oh, that whole thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even look into that.
What was once sacred is still sacred. That's what it was. Yeah.
How can he say it? Because he's trying to be. Sorry, I won't say what I don't actually mean truly. I'll put it that way. I won't.
Anyways, long story short.
God rest our Papa.
Yeah. But it's the thought process in my mind is like, you can't take something that's gone on for most of church history and just suddenly say, nah, you can't do that anymore. It's like, what? Really? I mean, unless it was like evil somehow and it snuck in.
It's a good thing that part of it is not magisterial or infallible. It's a really good thing.
So it's something you could easily do something with in the future, as whoever the new pope will be. Who I'm praying for.
It's gonna be Pizzaballa. I'm calling it now. It's Pizzaballa.
I've seen some interesting commentaries on it, but Pizzaballa would probably be a good one.
I think he'd be a very good one, and he's going to be ones that trads aren't going to be super thrilled with, but they'll be happy enough with, considering where we've just come from.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's like straight up trad, but
No, he's not.
he definitely seems to me like somebody who respects church history very well.
Absolutely, yes. He cares about continuity.
Like the hermeneutic continuity thing, like with Benedict, like what he was doing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Same with Cardinal Sarah, though, and that's the one the trads all want. He's very similar, actually.
Of course, I would say Cardinal Sarah is definably more traditional.
He is, but actually, have you read his book on silence?
No, I've not.
In his book on silence, I can't. I used to be able to quote this by page because it would make everybody angry when I would quote it. He said that some marriage between the Novus Ordo and the TLM would be the ideal situation.
I like in practicality agree, like truly and honestly. Like at the end of the day, we can run around talking about how ideally it'd be amazing if everyone was a saint, but not everyone is going to be a saint. And I think you can think about the liturgy in a similar way. And I think that in that sense of like the traditional Latin Mass is gorgeous and awesome, and I'm here for it. Not every person in our modern day society, with how far we've fallen, is gonna be able to accept it, and it's not necessary either. It's not
Right.
100% mandated. So like I'm kind of with Benedict in that sense of like a happy blend between the two would be like kind of ideal. Not to mention the fact that like the traditional Latin Mass kind of lost a little bit of the original liturgy, which had more of a balance between sacrifice and meal. You know, we've definitely put. I shouldn't say we definitely put. Some people who took their own interpretation of what they want the Novus Ordo to be put too much emphasis on the community meal aspect of it.
Yeah. And then the only other aspect I would say is I definitely think if you go back to the early church and you look at St. Augustine, he says it flat out. I read Confessions. I'm not going to pretend to be ignorant of this. He said the vernacular is important so that people understand what's going on.
Totally.
That was in the 400s.
Absolutely.
And he was talking about like the Gauls and like at the time the Germanic tribes and the various people they were going out to evangelize to.
Do you mind if I grab a beer very quick? It'll be 30 seconds.
You're good. I'm not sure how much longer you want to go with this marathon, so but
I don't care. I can drink a beer whether we're live or not.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Yeah. Dang, y'all still on. Yeah. Well, when conversation is going well, there's not really a defined end time to things. Unlike, God's plan with end times and whatnot. Nobody knows what that is, but this comment cracked me up. Dang, y'all still on? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. What'd you say?
I said we are still on. We are still here.
And if at any point you need to peace out, you just let me know.
Yeah, sure. Oh crap! It's almost 10.
I was gonna say the longest podcast I ever did was about 5.5 hours long.
I can talk forever. Are you kidding me?
I think at some point, if you are doing content like this, that is a fact for most of us at this point. You can talk for pretty much forever.
Oh, for sure. So I just needed to check my messages really fast.
The longest podcast
make sure
I ever
Joe
did.
is not like, oh crap, you need to change everything. Like,
Here, let me just tell you to comically enlarge the head of whoever you guys are talking about.
That is unironically sometimes fantastic advice. So
it works. It's funny. And then my favorite edit I've done in that chat we've got is adding James White's head to the other thumbnail that I'm not gonna
that was obviously the correct choice. Like
it was.
like truly, that was so obviously the correct choice. Because yeah, I mean, it added the right level of well, we're talking about something no one else gives a single crap about. But
about.
Regardless, okay, so wrapping up liturgical music really fast.
Absolutely.
I truly, honestly believe it is better to have something that leans much more towards the transcendent and less towards the carnal.
Agreed.
Not like if we use the term emotional, emotions are empirically things that we don't even necessarily register. Like even the transcendental music that I'm referring to evokes emotion from you, but it
can,
not.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like even just us talking back and forth with one another is evoking emotions out of us that we do recognize is there and ones that we don't recognize as there because of the function of what emotions actually are. And I'm not going to get into that right now, but there are like countless emotions that we don't have words for that are happening in us at all times that we don't even realize are happening. And the transcendental music sits more in that space where it's not in this more carnal stimulus focused space of emoting, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it absolutely does.
So that's why I don't like describing the new stuff as like, oh, it's very emotional, because like we get what that means, like colloquially speaking, but it's not actually accurately hitting the truth with words. And what I would say is it actually is more carnal. And that's not bad in and of itself. I just don't know that it's appropriate for liturgy. I am open to being moved on this position, but it would take a heck of a lot. Because we've seen so much error creep in. We've seen so much lack of focus creep in. We've seen so much heresy creep in since then. And in the Discord channel,
in music in ministry, that has been bringing the more pre-Vatican II music to the Novus Ordo. And it's funny because a lot of the people our age or younger appreciate it a lot. And then you get...
hey, you know what? There's a whole lot of pre-Vatican II music I also don't think should be included.
Well, fair enough.
There's a ton of it. So
I'm talking about the parts where it makes sense, though. Like, so he brings in, for example, he's doing the Latin version of the Lamb of God, which I think makes sense.
Agnus Dei. Yeah.
Agnus Dei, yeah. And then he's doing for the Kyries, which is actually Greek, but still, we're doing Kyrie instead of, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy.
Good.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. It makes sense. Like, those are the universal parts of the Mass that if you go anywhere in the world, they should all match, in my opinion.
Yes, agreed. Actually, literally agreed. So hold on. There's actually something important I wanted to bring up about the pre-Vatican II stuff that I don't think is appropriate.
Okay.
So I go to a TLM Mass, and for Easter and for when we reopened our church that got destroyed by a tornado and was like a month and a half ago reopened, we had string section, full choir, doing like 18th century Mozart kind of stuff, which is beautiful in and of itself, but is so incredibly distracting. Super distracting. And especially during a part of the Mass where we are supposed to actually be participating, to have that all taken over by this like really hyper elaborate, very pomp and circumstance, aggrandized thing. I can understand the idea of like, we want to make something grand and beautiful for God. Like, yeah, okay, I can make that same argument for progressive metal. Are we going to start introducing that into Masses now? It's very elaborate. It's super sophisticated. It's going to be grand and powerful. But oh no, that's metal music. It's pretty darn close to the same thing. It's pretty freaking close. Like, it's not exactly the same thing.
Mozart was a Freemason, I'm pretty sure.
Wouldn't surprise me. But still, like even if it's like Bach, who also wasn't Catholic, but like any of those guys, even if it was one of
I
the
was
Catholic
mostly
guys,
joking by
it's
throwing that out there. I
yeah,
was
but
mostly
like,
joking about that part, but yeah.
the idea being it is more focused on the self-expression and the carnality of it all.
Yeah.
And it draws your attention away from mass and draws it towards the music. That's not what you should be doing. It is not what should be happening.
Hey, it might make you feel better to know that Pius X agrees with you on that.
Based! Based! Okay, let's cap off the story about me going to this Novus Ordo parish, listening to the music, and then going to the TLM. Right before that happened, this is after I came back from Christmas vacation that I went to that Novus Ordo parish. While I was on Christmas vacation, I was at my folks' place at my home parish, and my priest has two relics on the altar. One of which I know is John Vianney because he's just obsessed with John Vianney, and the other one I have no idea who it is, and I can't read the darn thing. It's like a bunch of different initialisms that mean nothing to me, and I'm just like, well, I'm touching my rosary to both of these because why not?
Yep.
So I touch my rosary to both of these. I go home, and then I listen to this music. I'm just like, this sucks. This is insulting to God. I'm going to the TLM. I don't care that I don't love it right now. It's just that this is obviously going to be less offensive to God. So I'm doing that, and then I go back during the summer, and then I eventually go up and I look again at the relics, and I take a picture, and I use like the little like Google image search. It's a relic of Saint Pius X.
That's awesome.
It was like so many moments like that where you're just like, I don't care about your scientific empiricism. Like, it's not gonna beat this. It's not gonna beat it. Like it's so like when you say like Pius was like absolutely like the guy who would agree with me. Awesome. That makes me even more solidified with him in my opinion. I'm already thinking this guy might secretly be my patron saint. I didn't know was my patron saint the whole time.
Did you hear about the most ironic part? And I pray for the repose of the soul of Pope Francis. But the most ironic part of where he chose to be buried was the fact that he's in the same church, and there's only like 6 or 7 popes in that same church, and one of them is Saint Pius V, who promulgated the Tridentine Mass.
No, I didn't. That's pretty funny.
The meme said, which one of them's going to roll in their graves first? I was just like, oh my gosh. What are the chances? Oh, anyway.
I don't know. God has a great sense of humor. He really does.
Oh, man.
I won't. I'll talk about that after the stream.
Okay.
My thoughts on other things. It's not
Fair
something
enough.
I should talk about publicly. But yeah, I'm actually okay with the fact that he chose to be buried somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm less okay with the fact that he changed all of the rites for all of the papal funerals. If he wanted to do that for himself, that's fine. But I mean, like, I don't know. It's a big
change.
It's a big step. Yeah.
Wasn't that why Benedict's was handled so strangely?
I don't remember offhand. That was prior to me coming back.
'Cause that was when did you? Because that was just like 2 years ago. So how recent?
That was definitely more than 2 years ago. Definitely.
It was either 22 or 23 December. I'm pretty sure.
Let me see.
I could be wrong about that, but it feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Benedict the 16th's funeral.
And there was like no pomp and circumstance. At all.
Okay, it was
bizarre.
early 2023, and I reconverted in August of 2023. Okay.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay. But he was like 90 something when he passed, which is wild because he thought he wasn't going to make it that long.
And he also wasn't Pope at the time either.
When he died, he was emeritus, Pope emeritus, which is even
Yeah.
nobody knows how to handle that because it doesn't happen like once every 600 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then you get some really interesting theories.
yes, yeah, I've heard a lot of terms. Like there's one like Benny Plenist or something, and it's like, oh my goodness, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I just the idea of other than interregnums, which is what we're in right now, the seat can't be empty, or how do you ever recover? I just logically
I mean,
doesn't track for me.
it proves the church false at that point.
Right. So it's like
Based upon everything else it's said throughout all of history. Yeah.
I just can't subscribe to that thought process, period. So, all right. Is there anything else you wanted to oh, just real quick, since I asked you earlier, distorted guitar, that's noise, right? When you add distortion?
No, I mean, the distortion itself is literally noise.
Right.
But that doesn't make the whole thing itself noise. It makes it noisier than it was. But
it adds noise to something that doesn't have noise on its own.
Or that has less noise on its own.
Sure. Yeah. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, that was just the thought earlier. Was there any other questions in here that we needed to answer? I don't think so. It's just the one about maybe you can answer what digital audio workspace you do use in case he comes back to look at
Studio One. It's Studio One.
Okay.
I recommend it because it's like a nice crossover between having the robust functionality but also being more user friendly than Pro Tools. That's the one I would recommend. But I mean, I don't know. The best DAW is the one that you know how to use the best.
Agreed. Last question then. What is your favorite liturgical song?
Okay, so I don't know if this technically counts or not, but like Salve Regina. Maybe that's a pleb answer, but honestly, that's my favorite one. I love the Salve Regina.
It's a great song. Great prayer, great song, all of the above. Mine is clearly one bread, one body. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I couldn't even get through that sentence with a straight face. Oh, man.
Gotta make sure you do a waltz while you're going up to communion with the one bread, one body.
I need more liturgical dancing.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Let's be like David, okay?
I don't know what my favorite song is these days, but it's definitely one of the Gregorian. Oh, it's Miserere. The Psalm, what is it, 90? It's 90 or 91, depending on which one.
If I heard it, I would probably know it.
If you ever looked it up, you would immediately recognize it. I actually put that on. It's there's like a 12-minute version done by Tenebrae Choir with Nigel Short. It's to have mercy on me, I'm a sinner, David Psalm.
Yeah. Friggin' Lepanto just dropped a question. And
oh, there you go.
The answer is no, not that I'm aware of. My time has been thoroughly taken up by Mr. Heschmeyer, and when I'm not working on Mr. Heschmeyer videos, I'm trying to finish scripts for my main channel. But the Marian channel is not completely abandoned, but it's on the back burner behind the back burners.
Can I grab a link to throw in the pinned comment later?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, to the Marian channel?
I usually try to pin either one.
Oh, I mean,
although I'm sure anybody can find the Become the Night channel at this point. All right. Let's see. I think that's it. I don't think I've got, unless you have something you want to ask me before we, I give you plenty of time to ask if you have a question.
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Here we go. There it is. I haven't looked at this channel in forever. I think it's gotten 0 views over the last 3 months.
Ooh, that's not good.
I mean, I haven't posted in a while. But there you go. Question for you.
If you have any. If you don't.
Is water wet?
Well, it depends on if it's evaporated or if it's in the atmosphere somewhere, then it wouldn't be that wet.
If it's evaporated, it's vapor, it's not water.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. But water is still water. It's just water vapor.
Water is still water. It's water. No, H2O is a chemical. It's a chemical compound. And the one...
I'm just giving you a hard time. And so
well, I'm trying to get an answer out of you. Is water wet?
Water, the idea of being wet is it's a state of water. It gets people wet. Water itself is water. It's a liquid. I don't think it is technically wet on its own. Wet is like you describe something that has water on it.
Does water have water on it?
I guess, yeah.
But I would say unless it is one singular molecule, which never occurs in nature. Yeah, I would say water is wet.
Okay,
Not only
that's
from the
fair.
fact that when you touch water it feels wet from the stimulus point of view, but also if we look at it chemically, technically, I mean it's touching water.
Yeah,
It's like
water touching water would be wet. That's true.
and anything that you describe as touching water is wet. So
Yeah,
that's my
by
argument
my
from it.
definition, you've proved me wrong. By my own definition.
I've heard some other good arguments, but I feel like they aren't actually as good as they think they are. That's okay. I always like hearing the rationale behind that.
Oh, I do need to ask you one last question. Do you have
Sure.
any opinion on she shall crush thy head? I've asked like every person that's come on about that one.
What is that?
Genesis 3:15 about the serpent and Eve.
I
The
mean,
the traditional reading is she shall crush thy head, and it refers to Mary through Jesus and her fiat. The more modern revision, I would say, because it is kind of a revision based on the critical and Masoretic texts. It says he shall crush thy head. There's no consensus of early church documents other than that the early church fathers mostly cite she.
1 second.
If you go to Catholic Answers, it'll say that some kind of typographical error. I don't buy that explanation based on my own research, but just so you know.
I know next to nothing about the origins of what we get in our English Bibles.
Fair enough.
So I don't have an opinion on it.
That is totally fine. I wondered if you would have some similar conversation like that.
In the future, possibly, honestly. But yeah, right now, nah, I'm too ignorant.
Sounds good. Well, I do appreciate you giving me 2 hours and 41 minutes of your time and counting.
Yeah, sure.
And I definitely think we should do something in the future again if you're up for it.
Gay, terrible, awful.
Maybe at a future creators conference if I qualify the next time around.
You should bug Kyle about getting you there anyway.
Well, I think next year I will be more open to it, but it'll depend on
You
timing.
also got a family and everything, so there's that
Yeah.
too.
I would love to go. I would have a lot of fun with something like that.
Oh, dude, it was
but yeah,
fantastic the first year. I'm curious how the second year is going to be. I'm curious how much gayer everything will become now that it's becoming popular and well known.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, if I had more time to plan for something like that, I probably could have done it this year. But it's just too close for me to make a plan like that at this point. So I already told Kyle next year, hit me up. I'm happy to put it on my schedule. All right. That's it. That's all I've got for you today, at least. In the future, when I think of more questions to ask you, maybe we'll have another conversation. Get Joe on, you and I can all debate Psalm 22 for like 3-4 hours.
Oh, whatever his opinion is my opinion. Like, there it is. You can just have that conversation with Joe. He knows so much more about it than I do.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming on. And if you haven't subscribed to Become the Night, the channel that is hosted by Mike.
Just don't. Look. Okay, I've had this policy since day one of my channel. I wasn't going to go around sharing it with people that I already knew so that they give me fucking sympathy clicks. That is the bullshit way of never being successful. What you should do is actually make something that people want to watch. So if you would like to go look at my channel and see if it's something you're interested in, I appreciate that. And if you don't have any interest in it, that's also fine, and I still love you. But don't subscribe to me just because I hung out on your friend's channel, because that's retarded. It's stupid.
Well, obviously check and see what it is before you click subscribe. I'm sorry, but definitely go check out his channel. If you just blindly subscribe to channels because I told you to, well, you should buy things from me too. Let's just I'll sell you a drink somewhere. But
yes, based.
At the very least, go check out his channel and subscribe if you enjoy what you see.
Go look at things that will make you angry at me. I'm ready for it. I'm used to it.
All right. On that note, though, I'm gonna sign
thank you for
off
having
here.
me on, Chris. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you hang out for the you and I, not everybody else, I'm happy to hang on for a minute and chat. So
yeah, sure.
All right. Well, for everybody else, here's the outro for you guys. As soon as I figure out where the button is.